evening. I'd like to call the Peoria Public Schools District 150 Board of Education meeting for August 11th, 2014 to order. Would you please call the roll? Here.
Mrs. Costi? Here. Mr. Crawford? Mr. Bateman?
Here.
Mrs. Ross? Here. Mrs. Floyd? Mr. Floyd?
Here.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Here. Thank you. Mr. Crawford is not with us tonight. He was out of town for his job, and something came up and he was not able to get back. So would you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, okay. Can I do it right after his afternoon? Okay. Thank you. Our first order of business tonight is to fill up all of our seats around the horseshoe. So the proposed action is that the Board of Education is asked to approve the appointment of John Bateman to fill a vacant board seat in District 3. Could I have a motion and a second?
So move.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Costi? Aye. Mr. Bateman? Mr. Floyd?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Would you please rise and read your oath?
I, John Bateman, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of member of the Board of Education of Peoria Public Schools in accordance with the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and the laws of the State of Illinois to the best of my ability. I further swear or affirm that I shall respect taxpayer interests by serving as a faithful protector of the school district's assets. I shall encourage and respect the free expression of opinion by my fellow board members and others who seek a hearing before the board, while respecting the privacy of students and employees. I shall recognize that a board member has no legal authority as an individual and that decisions can be made only by a majority vote at a public board meeting. And I shall abide by majority decisions of the board while retaining the right to seek changes in such decisions through ethical and constructive channels.
Thank you. Welcome to the fray. Thank you. You're now official, so you can be included in the next roll call. We do have an item on the agenda tonight regarding an intergovernmental agreement with the city, and I think we have Interim Chief Mitchell here.
Yes.
So I don't know if he'd like to say a couple of words about this agreement that we have for some police officers.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for the opportunity. We're looking forward to this agreement with District 150 as we did last year. We understand that the pricing has come down a little bit. I know that was a concern, and I think that was worked out between the city manager and members of the board here. So, if you have any questions about the agreement or about the responsibilities of the officers, feel free to ask me.
Just to thank you, first of all, I said that last week to you and the city manager for working with us, especially as it relates to the agreed upon rate. Address the issue as it relates to our school resource officers, and that includes our Greg Collins and Rich Gould as safety administrators, why they cannot carry guns. And being that Officer Collins, Officer Calbo, Officer Swain actually are retired Peoria Police Department officers, why they can't carry guns on our campuses. Can you kind of hit it?
Yeah. the state of Illinois has to authorize police personnel to carry firearms. So if you're a sworn law enforcement department, obviously you would be included in that. And my understanding is District 150 security officers are no longer a law enforcement agency. So therefore, they're restricted in carrying firearms on school property. So
And that includes the retirees from your police department?
that is correct. They can carry firearms outside of school property in accordance with the state of Illinois, but not while on school property. That would include your parking lots as well.
Okay, all right. That answer it?
Okay.
Any
Thank-
other questions?
Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the city and the police department for working with us so that we can get this accomplished until we decide what we're going to do long-term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Chief Minister.
Do we have any awards and recognition tonight?
We'll do that in the presentation.
Okay. Any announcements by board members?
All right, school starts next Monday, August the 18th. It is a full day for students, for our middle school and high school students, 7:30 to 2:30. For our primary students, 8:30, I know it, yay, 8:30 to 3:30. Buses will be running. All changes to transportation must be finalized by Thursday, August the 14th, if students are going to receive transportation on the first day of school. A very special thank you to our Human Resources Department, and also transportation and all of the district staff, building and grounds, central office administrators, for getting everyone hired and getting prepared for our students. So we're excited about next Monday morning. Meet us at the bus stop or meet us out at our schools, but we look forward to receiving all 14,000 students.
And also just a reminder to all of the staff that our all-staff opening is this Thursday at Bradley University in the Renaissance Center, and we look forward to kicking off a new school year with all of our staff in one place, so that will be on Thursday. Okay, we're going to start out with district presentations tonight. Dr. Lathan, the first one is on the professional development update.
Yes, Dr. Kennedy is here. Every year, based on the board request, you ask us for an update as it relates to professional development and summer programming opportunities for students. So we're excited tonight to have students here in the audience and parents and also staff members that participated in professional development this summer. There's a PowerPoint that will come up behind us, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Kennedy.
This summer, we had various opportunities for our teachers as well as our students. We served over 812 students this summer with these different opportunities, and approximately 371 teachers. They traveled all across the country, and they had a wonderful time in Peoria. So, and we're going to start with the Step Up fifth grade transition program. So if Chetney and Kendra and Lyric can come down.
All right.
This program was new to me. It was exciting for me also because I'm going from 4th grade to 5th grade, so I got a chance to see what it's like. We taught the kids about volunteering, responsibility, because we're going into middle school, you'll have to accept more responsibility than you did as an elementary student. We actually taught the students how to open combination locks, problem solve, organization, and STEP. And also how to communicate with one another and not be nervous or be shy about it. And then I have two girls that's going to talk to you themselves.
Kendra.
The Step Up program was fun and I learned a lot. On the last day of the program, we got a District 150 backpack. I have made it into a goodie bag for tonight. It tells all the good things about Step Up. We learned about opening a lock, saw friends, bus ride, got a backpack with school stuff in it, free breakfast and lunch, field trip to Believe It or Not Museum. We played math games. We learned a step dance.
Oh, yeah.
Helpful teachers. Dr. Kennedy gave us a book to read. Be respectful to teachers and parents. I hope they have the Step Up program next year to help other kids too. Thank you, Dr. Kennedy and Dr. Lathan, for this program.
Now, we have Lyric Betts, and she's going to be going to Calvin Coolidge, correct?
Well,
She's still beside.
okay, my favorite thing at the Riverfront Museum was the planetarium. I learned how close each planets are to the sun. It goes Mercury, Venus, Earth, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. For Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune are the gas giants. Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars are the terrestrial planets. The planetarium was my favorite thing at the Riverfront Museum, but everything was amazing. I made a thing, illustration of my stuff, and I put some facts about each planet, so I'll read that too. The sun is 4.6 billion years old, and it is 5,500 degrees Celsius. Mercury has a core made out of molten sulfur that takes up most of Mercury's shape. A day on Venus lasts more than a year. Earth is the only planet not named after a god. Mars is home to the tallest mountain in the solar system. Jupiter has really unique cloud features. Saturn has the flattest rings in the solar system. Uranus is the coldest planet in the solar system, and only one spacecraft has flown by Neptune ever. Thank you.
They have a special cheer that they learned courtesy of Miss Diane. You gonna help them out? Face the board.
Okay.
Step up a little. Don't want you to come up a little bit.
And most of these were beginners, and the boys really surprised me. They just really enjoyed this little step that they made up. And it's called Step Up. Ready, ladies? And say it really loud. 1, 2, 3, go.
Step up, step out. Let us tell you what it's all about. We're here, no doubt, to learn new things that really count. There's organization, volunteering too, career orientation, just to name a few. Compass learning and games, there's plenty to do. S is for scholarship, T is for our time, E is for everyone to step up and shine. P is for public speaking, and P is simply up. There's also step where you clap your hands and jump.
Step up.
Step out. Let us tell you what it's all about. We're here, no doubt, to learn new things that really count. Step up!
Thank you very much. And as Carrie Grimminger is coming down for STEM, I do want to add that Mr. Cloyd participated on the last day. I was going to put his picture in there, but I thought he might have fired me since he's on the board.
Did he learn the step up?
He did the drum dance.
That was Gary Moore's presentation, and we all were around the big circle there. It was a lot of people in the room. And fortunately, there's no video.
Yes, there is.
Please don't show it.
Okay, I was the coordinator of STEM camp, which is for upcoming fourth graders. It was held at Lincoln this year. The theme of the week was transportation, and there's a picture going around for everybody of the group of kids. We started our week pushing cars around the parking lot, learning about the importance of tire pressure. We brought a race car to the campus to demonstrate transportation isn't just for to get us from point A to point B. It's also used for entertainment. Students learned and applied knowledge they have about science, technology, engineering, and math. The biggest focus for us was tying them all together. So when students designed a car, they would actually go back and re-engineer the car for it to go further. Students built cars, boats, rockets, and airplanes while researching various modes of transportation using the iPads, and then they created a presentation board as a group. After they built their initial product each day, they were able to go back and collaborate with their teams and redesign it to work better, whether it was a boat with a bigger sail or tires moving the axles to make it go straight. This was a key component to the week, and I really think that the kids, the things that they come up with is just, it's really amazing. Awards were given on the final day for students for us to recognize the students that built the car that went the furthest or the boat that went the fastest. So we were able to recognize the kids that did really, really well, stood out to everybody. But we recognized everybody too, so, yeah. Thank you.
How many kids did you have participate?
80.
How many kids did you have participate?
80.
Okay,
Yeah.
and do you know how many in the Step Up program?
Step up, it was 37.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, they're coming up. We were competing also last week, and we've already made a decision that next year we'll move our camp up a week earlier. We were competing with another camp at the Civic Center that had about 200 students in the morning session, another 200 in the afternoon. So we're going to try to coordinate our schedules next year so we're not competing for the same group of students.
Hello, I'm Scott Boots from Keller Primary School. We had, excuse me, Compass Learning Odyssey Lab at our school this summer from June 16th through July 24th. We held it Monday through Thursdays from 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock, but we also had the breakfasts and lunches. Breakfast from kids had the option of having breakfast from 8:30 to 9, and then lunch from 11:30 to 12. So over an average, about 6 weeks, we had about, well, if you don't include the first week and the 6th week, which were kind of lower, our 4 in the middle, we had between 12 and 16 kids a day, so that was a pretty good turnout. Majority of the kids were from Keller, but we did have some from other primary schools, and we did have some middle school students also. And we had a couple of kids that were there almost every day, a couple ELL kids, so that was good to get that practice in for them. And the one young man who will be going into 4th grade next year, he completed his lowest folders in language arts and math for NWEA, and then he also had some activities that he had done in each one of them. So we felt like it was a really good thing for the kids to be able to do, and get a chance to. And some of those kids too didn't have, like those kids, I don't believe they have computer access at home. So it's definitely a benefit to them, to be able to come to Keller for that. So, thank you.
Just real quickly for all of you,
I'm
do you
sorry.
feel like the children who are coming to use the labs were the children who needed to come rather than just to come play games or anything? Do you feel like you've got some of the kids who really need the extra help to come?
Some kids, yeah. There were, I'd say probably about Kristen Mullins, who was at Keller also. She helped with this summer. Probably about half and half. Yeah, so. Do you have anything to add?
My name is Mike Regali, and I also was part of starting our Compass program at Harrison. We had a bit more of a age range of students that came to our school. We had kids that were first all the way up to upcoming freshmen in high school that came to our program. On average, I would say 20 to 25 kids showed up. They came in for breakfast, they stayed for the program. They had no issues with logging on and choosing an appropriate activity. We had kids that were there that were struggling and that were trying to improve on those academic deficiencies from the previous year, but we also had some students there that were there to get a leg up on the upcoming school year as well. Being that the program was voluntary, I was very impressed with the number of kids that did show up. We also got to do some fun activities to follow up what the kids were doing with the Compass program. We had a garden plot, and we've got some pictures that hopefully will end up on the district website at some point. But the kids had a lot of fun with that. It was a real-life extension from what the kids were doing, picking with the biology Compass activities. It was an extension of a real-life situation from what they were already doing with the Compass program. And I just wanted to thank the board for giving me the opportunity and my 4 colleagues that were helping me run the program this summer. I would like to continue in the future. I think it's very beneficial, and it will be great for helping us close those learning gaps, and I think it will be very interesting and exciting to see how this particular cohort of students will end up scoring on the first round of their NWEA testing this year coming up. So thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Taguana Webster, and I work at Glen Oak Community Learning Center. And our site was a success this year. We had an average of 35 to 40 students each day. That was amazing. Our age levels did vary. We did have some students that came from Valeska that were from pre-K, and they were on Compass Learning, as well as students up until 6th grade. We had, our highest number was about 60 students at one point in time, but it was a success. We also made sure that they were accountable this summer. We did not just let them get on Compass Learning and just click, click, click. They had to prove that they were on a different activity each time and record their own data so that we knew that they knew how to get on Compass Learning and what they were there for. So we just thank you for allowing us to have that program at our site this year.
Mayor? Not only did we do academics, we also had sports and other fun activities this summer for our students.
Good evening to the board and Dr. Lathan. I apologize for my throat. Sinus just caught up with me for some strange reason. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Chris Copeland for helping putting this together, Ms. Branscombe, principal at Glen Oak, for allowing us to use her gym, Coach Danielle Robb from Manual High School, and Levon Young for help monitoring the campers. And especially, most of all, Dr. Lathan for supporting the program. Excuse me, my nerves trying to get the best of me through sinus. So I'm working through this. Okay, this summer, the district offered a first ever girls and boys volleyball camp in order for them to participate in this camp, they had to attend a Compass Learning. That was a strict requirement from Dr. Lathan. You have to connect education with sports. Being that Rich was head coach requires her players to do community service, this was a great opportunity for them to earn some hours, community hours. We also had help from Manual High School as well as Peoria High volleyball players. By having the high school students there as volunteers, it provided peer cooperation and leadership, which is a component of AVID strategy. So we did include AVID. The campers were provided the best training as if they had attended a $400 plus volleyball summer camp or played for a $1,200 to $2,000 plus travel team. I am one of the certified USA volleyball coaches in the district, so when the kids came, they asked, what are we going to do? We went through extensive training as if they were an elite team. When they left and came back the next day, they were complaining how sore they were and how much pain they were in. And I asked, is it a good pain or a bad pain? I said, do you need to go to the hospital? They said, no. I said, that's a great pain. I love to hear that. We will continue that. Prior to presenting this idea to Dr. Lathan, I had heard her speak numerous times. It's all about the 14,000 plus students in the district. I thought this is my opportunity to try her at her word, but I was a little hesitant. Normally, in the past, not just anyone could approach the superintendent unless you held an important title or high position. When I finally got my nerves comfortable to approach her with my idea on her day off, while she was at the Riverplex, watching her daughter play basketball, and I was reffing her game. After the game was over, which I was happy they won, I walked over to Dr. Lathan and presented my idea. Before I could speak to her in her southern dialect, she said, I can't do it because of my sinus, but hi, Ms. Woods, how you doing? I was shocked she even knew my name. I said, Dr. Lathan, I got an idea for our kids. And she said, what is it? Let me hear it. I told her, excuse me. First of all, I shared some background knowledge. I informed her, I do a lot of reffing outside the district, and I see how other programs bridge their academics and sports together. And I told her, really, in all due respect, Dr. Lathan, we have a crappy sports program, and respectfully. So I did my research, because I know some people are like, well, how does sports and education connect? There's a big correlation between education and sports because it builds kids' confidence as well as their self-esteem, and it correlates into good grades in class. But we as educators, we have to believe in this and train our children to believe this and pound in their heads. And you can do that with a volleyball, legally. Okay. She agreed, and thinking to myself, I thought I had prepared myself as a business person to sell this idea to her because I knew, being a superintendent, her name, I thought I better be well prepared for her. Before I finished explaining, she excitedly said, sure, put it in writing and connect it to education. No problem. And I started thinking to myself, really? It was that simple? I was seriously expecting her to pull out a long 13-month calendar with 35 days and inform me I need to call and make an appointment on the 35th day with her secretary. Parents, campers, and high school volunteers shared how much they had learned and enjoyed the camp. I had parents asking me what took so long to do this, why can't it go longer, and what are we offering them this school year? And I informed them they need to come to the top. I'm at the bottom. You got to talk to your top, the board. And they said they would. I don't know if they have contacted you guys, but they're starving for training. And I told them, first of all, education is number one, and then sports will follow. One of the campers told Dr. Lathan after camp she was hungry and thirsty. The next day, Chris comes in with a cooler of drinks and snack bags for all the campers. I asked him, what is all this for? He said one of the campers told Dr. Lathan she was hungry and thirsty after camp, and not only did they receive the bonus snacks, they were given a t-shirt and a backpack with some school supplies. In all the years of my experience in District 150, I have never met an administrator, especially the ones with superintendent before their names, who are willing to take their nose out of the cloud of pride and demonstrate compassion to all of their students. Dr. Lathan, thank you for opening the doors of opportunity to all of our students. In my opinion, you are one in a million. Thank you.
How many campers did you wind up having? Ms. Woods? How many campers did you have?
We started out with 32 the first 2 days, and after the pain and agony, we ended up with 15.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, I'm Diane Hines. For those of you that do not know, I'm very shy, so just kind of stay with me. I really am. Okay. Stepping is an activity where the participants use their entire body as an instrument by either clapping, stomping their feet, or using chants or props. And stepping derived from historically black colleges in the 1900s where sororities and fraternities, they made a step team and they started doing the step like that. So I was just so glad that we were able to bring step here into the middle schools. Woodruff, when I first started stepping, Woodruff had already had a step team. And so I said, okay, that's fine, that's what I wanted to do, but I want it all through the district. So we were able to have a step team in a lot of the grade schools. I started at Lincoln Middle School, and we were there for like 7 years, and then other schools we have it now. But I went to Dr. Lathan, and I asked her, could we have a step camp? And she said, sure, and got right on it like that, but, you know, just really quick on it, and I thank God for that. And anyway, July 8th through 10th, the step camp was from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Central. We had 15 camp counselors, 10 were high school students, and 5, including myself, were like district employees. There were about 70 participants from grades 4 through 8th, and students learned voice projection, stage presence, confidence. We talked a lot about confidence. We learned the difference between stepping and stomping, because stepping is when you do it and you're with your step team and you're practicing. Stomping is when you're just doing it at home, in math class, in English class, in the hallways, at lunch, you're stomping. So if you tell them stop stomping, they're going to go, I was stepping. No, you were stomping, honey. You weren't with your team. So you were stomping. I told them that is not a compliment if they tell you to quit stomping. So teachers, if they're, oh, you're stomping in my class. No, I wasn't. I was stepping. No, stomping. Okay, so they know the difference now. They received T-shirts. They had snacks. They were divided up into 3 categories: beginners, intermediate, and advanced. And they learned some chants, and as I said, we learned all the things like that. And we talked about District 150. We also learned a chant where I brought a couple of students that'll do the chant for you today in the little step. But those that came to the step program, some of them joined my citywide step team called TSO, and they had a chance to go with us to Springfield on Friday. We stepped at the state capitol for Secretary of State Jesse White and the Tumblers, and they had a chance to do that. Some of the beginner steppers went with us to step, so give them a hand. They did a good job. And I want to thank Dr. Lathan for letting my vision become a reality. I really appreciate you, and thanks for, trusting me, and just trusting me. And we made history, you all. We had a step camp, the very first step camp. Woo, 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 we made history. Okay, young people, can you come up really quick? I got 5 of them here. Really quick. Okay, can they go up there? Will they knock that down? Stand up there. Go up there. Hurry up. Oh, you went the long way. All right, face in and talk kind of loud. This is called remarkable rules. So I use stepping as a bait. Whatever I want to teach them, I use stepping as that bait, not stick it to them. I don't care if it's arithmetics, whatever. They're going to learn it through a step. Lock it up. Teachers, good idea. And they learn the remarkable rules through this step. So come up. Here we go. Let me hear you. Remarkable
rules. Welcome to the district where remarkable happens. Remarkable happens. Remarkable happens. Welcome to the district where remarkable happens. District 150 is remarkable. Welcome to the district where remarkable 150 is remarkable.
Dr. Lathan.
Dr. Lathan has 4 remarkable rules. And if we stick to them, we will have the best schools. There are 4. Count them. Remarkable rules. And if we stick to them, we will have the best schools. Dr. Lathan has 4 remarkable rules. District 150 is remarkable.
Louder. Rule number 1.
Respect the customer, that's me, rule number 2. Respect learning, history, rule number 3. Respect finance, money, rule number 4. Respect individual difference, how unique. Welcome to the district where remarkable practice, remarkable practice, remarkable practice. Welcome to the district where remarkable practice. District 150 is remarkable. Yeah.
Hey, do it. Kristen, do that. Go.
2, 3, go.
Again, thank you, Dr. Lathan.
Good evening. Side note, something you may not know is I actually was part of a step team in college, but just, it's a long story. Long time ago. My name is Tony Islas. I'm actually better known as Coach I. That's everyone knows me as. I am actually the assistant principal over at Woodruff Career and Technical Center. Prior to that, I was in the classroom for 8 years here in District 150, and this is beginning my second year as an administrator. Prior to those years and during that years, I was also the head wrestling coach at Knox College for 12 years. So when Dr. Lathan called me into the Commons of Woodruff, I thought I was in trouble, and I had to start thinking, what did I do, and start coming up with something. But she pulled me aside and she says, I'd like for you to be involved in this camp that we want to offer during the summer. And before she said wrestling, I'm like, okay. She said wrestling, and then everything kind of just, I felt better. I felt like I could speak about something. But the idea here was to introduce children in the Peoria Public Schools here, the middle school kids, to the sport of wrestling. It was very near and dear to my heart. Very passionate about it. I'm no longer coaching at Knox College, but I follow wrestling in my free time and get involved very heavily. In the pictures above, you'll see Mr. Jason Cochagrosa in the bottom large picture. He is the head wrestling coach at Central. Is a longtime friend of mine, and was at Woodruff, and that's where we kind of met. Right now in that picture, he's actually working with some students that have had almost little to no exposure to the sport of wrestling, and teaching him basics and understanding, because he wants to make sure that every young man, and if you look at the top picture, young woman is very capable of being able to wrestle with some integrity. And so, do we have any other pictures in there? On the next slide. So in that picture there, we see the number of campers. Those are the junior high and high school kids that were involved. The high school kids that were there were actually there as counselors as well. They helped. They weren't asked. They wanted to come and be a part of something and see that. And they have a great deal of respect and admiration for Coach Q, as they know him. Even the two young men on the far ends are graduates. Mr. Brandon is on the far right. He is graduated, going on to school, and he came back to help his coach. The young man on the left graduated the year before, also came back to help, as he wanted to make sure that his coach had the support that he needed to make sure that wrestling was taking off in the middle school here in Peoria. As a follower of the sport of wrestling, I was tickled to see all of the kids there that were really excited about it, having a great experience. And one of the things that we wanted to make sure that each child there had was an opportunity to be successful, to gain knowledge, and to make some really good friendships. And those kids were having a great time after every practice. And we finished every practice session with games that were related to wrestling. And Dr. Lathan came on the one day to see some of the things that we were doing, and it was just like a classroom. We wanted them to demonstrate something that they had received while there at the camp, and each kid went through and demonstrated something that they picked up. And so I was very excited to be a part of it. I'm ecstatic about the opportunity that District 150 is now going to offer wrestling to its middle school kids. It is unprecedented in the state of Illinois, is that there is no other place in the state of Illinois that's going to offer wrestling at the time of the year that Peoria is going to do it. So I feel very great about this opportunity for our kids. And Dr. Lathan's message to those young men and women were, in the fall when this happens, you need to bring 2 other people with you to introduce them to the sport. And if we have 2 more of each of those guys there's probably going to be about 60 kids that start the inaugural season. So I'm very fortunate to be a part of that. Thank you, Dr. Lathan.
Coach, if I'm not mistaken, the way the story actually goes is that Dr. Lathan talked to you maybe mid-morning or at noon, and by 4 o'clock, you and Coach Q had the program put together.
We did. We did. She knew who to contact and when to contact, and as soon as you put the 2 people together, the ball was rolling, and it was a good thing. I had a chance to work with a good friend of mine, and if there was anybody else I could have done it with, I don't know who it would have been, but it was good to have him there. So, thank you.
I'm Brett Elliott, the proud principal of the Pride of the City, Peoria High. Thank you for having us. That's right. Whoop, whoop. You know, Central's all over the screen, don't you, kids? All right. Along with the STEP, hosting the STEP camp and the wrestling camp, we also put together 2 other camps for students surrounding academics. And I do have one of our teachers here, Kelsey Courtney, who will share the details. But we got to give credit to our staff who put together 2 amazing camps, one for high school students, 9th through 12th graders from Peoria High, and she will share those details. And also, we put together one for 4th through 6th graders to show off our new science wing. And again, the Peoria High teachers led that as well. So they got science as well as physical activity for the younger students. And combined, they receive free breakfast, free lunch every day, 5-week program, which we hope to grow. Very excited. And I would like to have Kelsey Courtney share a few more details about those camps.
Hello, I'm Kelsey Courtney. The middle school camp was a science and physical education type camp where the students explored the scientific method and inquiry, doing experiments. They built contraptions to protect eggs that we dropped from the roof. We took them to the Wildlife Prairie Park and the Peoria Zoo, and also did the Ripley's Believe It or Not and the planetarium at the museum. So just getting them introduced to science and getting them ready for middle school. And then the high school camp was more of a real-life application of all of the content areas. So we had a cooking camp where students learned about healthy eating and manners. They cooked some meals, made some smoothies. We also had the arts and music and dance, so students could pick what they wanted to do. And then after a couple of weeks, we switched and they could go explore something else. We also did some math and science and reading. So students read The Fault in Our Stars, and then they went and did like a film study and watched the film. So it was a really exciting opportunity. They got to kind of explore and see some different things that they might not see during the school year. We had about 30 students in the middle school camp daily, and then about 30 students in the high school camp.
Okay, one of my favorite things is AVID, Advancement via Individual Determination. This year, we sent a group of teachers, Dr. Lathan, principals, and support staff. Over 124 people attended the 2 conferences. 83 attended in Indianapolis, 41 attended in Philadelphia. The schools that went were Franklin, Primary, Harrison, Community Learning Center, Lincoln K-8, Peoria High, Richwoods Manual, and Manual Academy. This year we brought on 4 new schools: Keller, Thomas Jefferson, Calvin Coolidge, and Von Steuben. And we do have quite a few here to give you their experiences. We're going to start with Franklin, and so you all show those shirts now. Come on down. They made everybody in Philly jealous, too.
we're not all going to talk. I know, don't get nervous, don't get nervous. So I'm Ann Bond, I'm the principal at Franklin Primary School, and I'm joined here with my Franklin family, 3 of whom will share some experiences with you about their time in Philadelphia and what they plan to do in the upcoming year. So just a little background, this is our 2nd year of AVID at Franklin. Last year was our first year of implementation, and we implemented in 4th and 5th grade, and I must say we completely and totally rocked it. I just have to say. We're just amazing. I don't know what to say. So for this year, we are going school-wide. So you can see the number of people there at the Liberty Bell. Those were the individuals that attended, and many of whom are with us tonight. And we have every grade level represented, special ed, support staff there. So we really made sure that it is a school-wide endeavor. That's what we wanted as a staff, and so we wanted to make sure we were all trained. Our goal is to become the first demonstration school for elementary. So in order to do that, we just had to make sure that we were all on board and all had the same training. When we were there, it's kind of hard to see in this picture, but we were separated out into different strands where there might be 2 or 3 people in one strand, 2 or 3 in another, 2 or 3 in another. And this was a time when we all came together to talk about what we had learned, and we have 3 overall goals for Franklin for this year, which I'll share in a minute. And what we did was we talked as grade level teams first and determined what at the grade level we would do for the overall goals. And then here, you can see us in a circle, and we literally clumped ourselves by grade level and started with 5th grade and went all the way around to kindergarten so that we could see the continuum of how AVID will be implemented at Franklin. And it was a really powerful moment. It really was. It was a really neat time. So, and they'll share a little bit more about that in a moment. These are our goals, kind of wordy because I get wordy when I write, but basically they'll explain what Wicker and L-Wicker strategies are, but that's part of AVID, and so kindergarten through 5th grade, we will definitely implement those in at least 2 core content areas, and every grade level will do it just a little bit different, just to meet the developmental age of the students at their grade level. We are also going to be hosting 7 AVID family workshops, which is huge because we didn't do that last year, and it was a piece that was missing, and so we want to make sure that we're connecting with our family and community. And then the last goal we have is really just making sure we have a solid systems approach, and what that means primarily is making sure that we continue our relationship with Peoria High, because they were amazing last year in helping us implement AVID. They really, really were. And so we want to continue that, and then we want to begin a relationship with Calvin Coolidge, because this is their first year of implementation, and so we're just really excited about that whole feeder pattern that we have. And so there's some things with that we want to make sure we're doing. So, having said that, Carrie Schindler is going to come up and speak, and she's our 5th grade teacher. She's in that picture. It's hard to see her, but this is during the training, and they were learning how to do a Socratic seminar, and so she was a part of that. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay.
Good evening. First, I would like to take the opportunity to thank the school board and Dr. Lathan for giving us the opportunity to attend the conference in Philadelphia. I can only speak for myself, but I feel like I learned a lot. I came out of it with a much deeper understanding for what AVID is, and it was time well spent. So I really appreciate the chance to go. As Mrs. Bond said, that this is a Socratic seminar, which is one thing that I went with the specific purpose of learning how to implement in my classroom. And after taking the opportunity to actually participate in one, I feel like I have a better understanding of what it is and how to go about implementing this in my 5th grade classroom. There were 4 of us from Franklin who were in this session. It was the inquiry session, and the strategies we were given in just a short amount of time for how we can better question our students, how they can better question each other and us as teachers, it was phenomenal. And I left Philadelphia with a much better understanding of myself as a teacher and of what I need to be doing in my classroom. 5th grade, as Mrs. Bond said, we've all set goals for grade level, and one of fifth grade's goals this year for AVID is to implement the WICOR lessons. There's 5, W-I-C-O-R, and we want to hit at least one every day and fully implement each component by the end of the week. So it's all stuff that we do normally, but we just have to focus and zero in on a little bit more, and I think we're really excited. I was fortunate enough that all of the fifth grade team from Franklin was there, so we're all on the same page and we're all able to hit the ground running on Monday. Thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Deb Harn, one of our kindergarten teachers.
Good evening. When Mrs. Bond told us that Franklin would become an all-AVID school for the 2014 school year, my curiosity was sparked. I was really excited to go to AVID Summer Institute training because I kept wondering, how are we as kindergarten teachers going to prepare our little guys and gals for college? Well, we did. During AVID Summer Institute, we learned about so many components that were truly relevant to kindergarten. For example, the WICOR, cooperative learning, cost us higher level thinking questions, 2 and 3 column note taking, yes, in kindergarten, and of course the L-WICOR, which is learning to write, inquiry, which is your higher level thinking questions. The C is cooperation, the O is for organization, and the R is learning to read. During the AVID Summer Institute, we worked closely with our grade level teams and set AVID goals for the new school year. I'd like to share one of the goals the kindergarten team set, and we will be implementing at the beginning of this school year. This is the FISH book. FISH is an acronym for Family Involvement Starts Here, and the goal was to utilize homework folders in our behavior calendars more efficiently. Every kindergarten student will receive a FISH book at Franklin at the beginning of the school year, and students will learn how to use their binders to help them stay organized throughout the day, and it will be a great communication tool between the families and the teachers. So, I'd like to introduce Mr. Trent Johnson, our school counselor.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. My name is Trent Johnson. I am the school counselor at Franklin Primary School. I'd like to thank the Board of Education and Dr. Latham and Dr. Kennedy as well for the opportunity to serve on behalf of Family Corps, which is the agency that I represent at Franklin Primary School, and we are delighted that you have afforded us the opportunity to serve there. Part of the thing that when I first went to AVID, I had done pre-work that you were supposed to have done, but when the teacher came around and asked me a question about what AVID was, and they had gone through some demonstrations, one thing I remembered was, AVID rocks! Okay, now don't get excited. So that was the first thing that I knew, because that's what they brought to the table, the enthusiasm about that. So what is it that we're saying about Franklin? As you heard, part of what we learned in AVID was that you go through, say what it is that you want to do, then you come back and review all that you learned during that session. So Principal Bond has introduced you to what we hope to achieve. She stated that we are the first full school-wide, primary-wise, to implement AVID through all grade levels, from K through 5. All right? And so part of the benefit is we already had 4th and 5th graders last year, so we are now feeding some of the schools in the district. For an example, we talked about Calvin Coolidge as part of that, and when those kids get through Calvin Coolidge, they'll go probably to Peoria High, but all our schools rotate throughout the district. Some go to Calvin Coolidge, some may even go to Sterling Middle School or wherever they may end up. But we have a good solid foundation. You already seen where Ms. Harn has also prepared the fish notebook for the kindergarten students and that sort of thing. So all of that is being incorporated. Now you're saying, well, Trent, why are you here and why are you representing Family Corps and why are you talking about the family environment? What is Hope as a result of having had the opportunity to go to Avid in Philadelphia was the fact that we wanted more parent involvement and we wanted to implement that segment of Avid so that we can bring the community in and talk about how it is that the college readiness system, which is a portion of Avid, fits within you as a parent. How do you fit in terms of helping your kids get the education and learning? As, again, Ms. Harn has showed you, in that various segments, there are folders that has homework opportunities for each of the kids to do. So we'll need to have her as an example, as one of our panel members, when we bring the parents in so that she can sit down with them. This is just an example where she can go through individually and tell them what is required and what is expected of each of them as a child in her kindergarten class. Again, we spoke about the 4th and 5th graders that are now 5th and 6th graders, that they're now going to be the individuals that we could potentially bring in to participate in some of those workshops so that everybody will know and understand that it's happening at Franklin Primary School. So, again, I wanted to say thank you so very much. We hope to have, and please note the choice of words, we hope to have 7 family workshops. Some of them are going to be integrated in some of our family nights that we'll have at the school. And again, thank you. Avid rocks.
And I want to add that when the district regional coaches came to visit and they went to Franklin, they have asked Ann to serve on a board, as well as in the spring they will be bringing people in to observe and look at her school and her processes. Yes, that's when the board meeting. Yeah, she'll be going to the national conference in Florida in December. Now, Crystal and Lincoln.
She's got my picture.
So my name is Crystal Monis. I'm the primary interventionist at Lincoln. This is the second year that I've gone to Summer Institute. This is the first year that primary has officially been on board with Avid at our school. The middle school has had it for several years, but this will be the first official year for our primary grades. And I would like to, as well as everybody else, thank you guys very much for sending us all. I think from the primary point of view, all of our teachers have come back very excited to share with their teammates and colleagues what they learned while they were there. The pictures that you see are from the sessions that I went to. I went to the Art of Inquiry, and as the previous speaker said, I learned a lot about not just becoming a better questioner as a teacher, but also taking a step back to learn what kind of thinkers our students are. Uh-oh, I did the wrong thing. Don't forget it.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, Avid's mission is to close the achievement gap by preparing all students for college readiness and success in a global society. The 3 key focus areas that we talked about include philosophical design, instructional design, and classroom design. A big component of Avid Beginnings is teaching our students organizational strategies and tools. It was reassuring to know that we already do many things to support Avid in our classrooms. We already use journals, we have graphic organizers, we do the thinking maps and have since we were trained on it. We have behavior homework folders that are sent home every day, and the parents sign it and it comes back the next morning. And this year we're going to add a daily planner and this is an example. At a kindergarten level, it would be just an example, so that they get used to seeing the order of things, what we're going to do that day, dialoguing about if something happens, we have look, it's my book, we have to cross it off, thinking out loud about how we organize our day and what we need to do. The philosophical design would have us developing a learning atmosphere that triangulates attitudes, behavior, and then the environment into a positive opportunity for physical, mental, and emotional growth. This is where we will include Costa's levels of thinking and questioning, and we have a handout that gives some examples. The instructional design consists of 3 levels. Level 1 is a spectator engagement, such as hands-on learning, which is constant in kindergarten. Level 2 is interactive engagement, which includes cause and effect relationships. Once again, every grade level incorporates that. And level 3 is collaborative engagement, where new insights are formed. So this is once again on a kindergarten level. Amy?
This is our circle map that we do with our thinking maps, but with Avid, we also realize that they have 2 column notes, and 2 column notes can be done even at a kindergarten level. So we can show them our circle maps that we've been doing, and we can put it in the Avid form as 2 column notes. We also, we extend this with our double bubble maps that are also part of the thinking maps we've been trained on, but it can go to the higher level that Avid plays with the Venn diagram, and we can include more of the steps of Wicker with the 3 column notes. So on the kindergarten level, our 3 column notes look a little different.
The classroom design must include 3 things that are critical to a successful academic experience. 1 is a literacy-rich environment, 2 is sequencing and patterning, and 3 is L. Wicker, learning to write, inquire, collaborate, organize, and read, and it is on the back side of the handout you got. With the new knowledge we have gained from this summer's training, we will be able to better implement AVID in our school.
And in Avid Elementary, there are 4 essentials. They are instruction, culture, leadership, and systems. A big aha for us was that at our Summer Institute, we learned that the teachers at our school are already doing a lot of things that support these essentials. For example, to support our instruction, we use thinking maps, as you saw through our visuals today. And this enables teachers to ensure reading strategies are taught and reinforced consistently and routinely throughout all of our classrooms. In support of culture, we offer many after-school activities and programs, and we do this in an effort to strengthen parent and community involvement. We actually just had a very successful back-to-school barbecue Thursday. Lincoln K-8 is ready for the new school year. Our AVID site team is excited to advertise our school, so Franklin's got some competition because we want to be the first to be a demonstration school. Together, we have created the following mission statement. The mission of the Lincoln K-8 AVID site team is to promote, implement, and share AVID strategies school-wide so every teacher and every student benefits. The purpose is for all students to obtain academic, social, and emotional success with the expectation that all students will learn the skills necessary to go on to higher education. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good evening. I'm Ken Turner from Keller Primary School, principal at Keller. Thank you, Superintendent Lathan, Board of Education, and Dr. Kennedy for the opportunity to go to AVID Summer Institute this year. We went in not knowing a whole lot about AVID, and this is our first year that we will implement at grades 3 and 4. And we will take some of the strategies school-wide in our first year as well. We're going to learn off of Franklin and Lincoln and some of the other schools. I'm excited to hear what they've done already, and we haven't done it yet, so I can't tell you a lot about what it will look like. But what I was also excited about, in addition to everything they've said, this aligns beautifully, Avid aligns beautifully with a lot of what we're already doing. And it's not an extra, because I'm pretty jealous of our teachers' teaching time and our students' learning time, and I didn't want to add a lot of extra things that they had to do that didn't really align with what we needed to do otherwise, and it doesn't. These are strategies and tools that are going to help us do what we do better and more efficiently. And what I love about the primary level is that we are building some of those foundational skills, showing them some strategies, some ways of organizing their thinking that then we build on from year to year, so that by the time they get to high school, by the time they're ready for college, they have very clear strategies, very clear, for example, the note-taking. We build from very beginning up to high school. They're doing Cornell notes. We're not doing Cornell notes in primary school, but we're building foundational skills so that they can. Kindergarten teachers, for example, are showing them some of those. When the kindergarten teacher is writing things out for the children, she's doing it in a way that shows them how to organize the thoughts, so that then when they start to write, they're writing that way. That's what they know. And same thing with all the other, the collaboration, they will just come up knowing that. That's how they will have done it, all through school, and the writing and so on. So I'm excited about that, and we are going to, as I said, we're going to implement it 3rd and 4th grade. We took only 4 teachers, but it was good collaboration time, and we very much appreciate the time that we had to do that. And so I want to thank you for that opportunity. I thank you for what you have allowed us to start at Keller. I think Karen Vitale, one of our 3rd grade teachers, is going to tell you what she learned. Thank you.
My name is Karen Vitale, and I teach 3rd grade at Keller Primary. And thank you very much for giving us all the opportunity to attend. It was very enlightening. I kept asking Mr. Turner and other teachers, what is AVID? I don't understand. I went on their website. I did the preliminary sessions that we had to do before we went there, but I still didn't understand what is AVID. I understand you use higher level questions, you teach kids to use note-taking, but I still didn't understand what is AVID. Is it a program? Is it a book? Is it a class I'm going to have to teach and find more minutes? So after about 2 days, I started to put it all together, that it's a lot of systems and organizational skills that we're going to teach our students, and that will be embedded into every single subject throughout the day. And it's going to promote the ease of going into middle school, high school, and beyond to their college years, and even life skills. I wish I had a lot of these organizational skills taught to me when I was in 3rd grade. And I just think our students in District 150 are going to benefit for a lifetime by learning these skills. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Lana Gundy. I'm a 4th grade teacher at Keller, and I'm going to tell a little bit about our goals at Keller. At Keller, our goal first semester is to focus on AVID organization. We will teach our students how to use a planner, keep a clean desk, and to use classroom organizational systems. Students will be taught organization expectations and will be held accountable for maintaining these expectations. We hope that if our students have AVID organizational skills, now they will be better prepared for their future as college students later. Thank you for allowing the Keller staff to attend the AVID training. We were all reminded we don't just prepare students for the next grade, but we in fact prepare them for their future in college. Thank you again.
Good evening, board members. Good evening, everybody in attendance. I'm Kevin Causley, school social worker over at Harrison Community Learning Center. Go Hawks. Taking a step back, I know a lot of people have just spoken about what they've learned and what was taught during the sessions. For Harrison Community Learning Center, we've lost over the last 2 years, I would say upwards of about 20 to 25 staff members. So us attending this training was more so for us to bond on a humanistic level. We got an opportunity to connect with each other, from going to a Bruno Mars concert, which was awesome, to, you know.
We pay for it ourselves.
Fortunately, I have family from New Jersey, so I was able to take a lot of our, staff members around the city of Philadelphia, and we got an opportunity to bond and really talk to one another and kind of find out where that passion comes from. And so, from that vantage point, I think it was phenomenal for us, and I'm encouraged, and I look forward to seeing how things roll out, not with just Abbott, but just as a school culture, how we approach this year. And I think it would be great for us down at Harrison to see where that works. Now, as a school social worker, I don't have any experience in the classroom, or very minimal experience in the classroom, but just to hear the enthusiasm in which those teachers that have already been implementing Abbott into their classrooms, the energy that they had, the passion, and just drive they had every day to come in there and teach those kids new information in a new way was just amazing for me to see. And so I know that when I go and do my classroom observations with teachers, observing teachers, and also observing students to make my assessments, I have another kind of vantage point to view my students, to not necessarily look through the social work lens, but also from that teacher lens as well. So I'm deeply indebted, and I appreciate the opportunity. I got to see my father. I hadn't seen him in a couple years, so I just had a phenomenal time. Thank you.
I'm back. This is my second year going. This is our second year implementing Abbott at Harrison. This year we're going to do 3rd and 5th grade. The 3rd grade teachers were super excited, and so was I, because I had the art of inquiry, which was a lot different than just the foundation course. It actually took you more deeper into the program and the systems. So I cannot wait till school starts. I already got my notebooks ready, and I already got my planners ready. Like, I'm ready to get it going.
Good evening, Pat Sell from Richards High School, assistant principal there. First off, I want to thank the Board of Education and the administration for supporting the Avid program. I got the opportunity to oversee the program at Richwood starting last year, and immediately bought in. One of the big reasons why is because the site team that we had, the teachers and counselors that believe in the program and what it can do for our students. So this year we took a team of 11 different people to Indianapolis to find a way to grow the program at Richwoods. And one of the unique challenges I think we have is we are trying to find our way to go school-wide with the International Baccalaureate program, as well as a very strong advanced placement program. And so last year, we were trying to find those inroads, and this year I had the opportunity to attend the leadership advancement and trying to find a way to go that next level instead of just looking at school-wide, or the elective class, but looking at ways to incorporate it school-wide. And the neat thing that we saw last year is through working with Ms. Johnson with the advanced placement program, with what they're doing on AP Saturdays, as well as our IB coordinator, Travis Bowlby, we're trying to find those inroads and excited to see that they believe as much in Avid as we do and how it can support all kids at Richwoods, not just the 100 right now that are in the elective class. So with the support of the 11 team members that went, 5 of us were returning, and we found 6 more that believe in it and want to find a way to go ahead and continue those inroads throughout the building, and believe it's something that's really special and to make Richwoods even greater and provide a great opportunity for our kids to grow long-term. One thing I will say to help my Avid elective teacher out, if any of you would ever like the opportunity to come speak on our Fridays, that's the day in which the elective teachers grade binders, but that's when we like to bring in guest speakers to come speak to them about what they did to get their college experience, the opportunities that they had, and then also the career that they chose and why they chose that. So I'd invite you to come do that, or just come and observe the class. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chris Riven from Thomas Jefferson. We're one of the newbie schools just starting out with Avid. I too didn't know much about Avid. But quickly we learned that it is sort of an umbrella or a basis for a lot of what we're already doing, but we'll be adding in a few more elements and tweaking it to make it our own. I wanted to talk about how we're planning to build the school climate and get everyone to buy into it. We already have the JA program at our school, so that already has our 5th graders and 6th graders thinking about college readiness and careers, so that'll lend itself wonderfully to that. We want our parents and families to buy in. We'll be introducing it at back to school night. And then the climate of the school, we plan to have our hallways named after local universities, so that kind of talk and vernacular is out there. And then we'll be having college t-shirt days and having representatives visit. Right now, we're beginning just with 4th, 5th, and 6th, but eventually we'll be going school-wide. And we're just very excited, and we hope that Dr. Lathan, you'll be able to send some more people from our building for more training. You don't have to send Don Gersich to Hawaii, just send everybody else to training. Thank you.
This summer, we had the opportunity for Kagan Cooperative Learning with our principals, and we have 4 principals who will speak on that.
Good evening, I'm Sue Malahy, principal at Lindbergh Middle School. And during our Administrators Academy this summer, we spent 2 days learning about and actually kind of taking the students' role in Kagan learning activities. And what Kagan provides is structures to really truly engage students. The focus is also not just academic, but a big focus is on the social skills as well. One of the things that we sometimes do as educators and leaders is just put students in groups and say, okay, go ahead and work together and let's get this assignment done. And in reality, there's an opportunity for someone to hide, and there's usually someone who kind of rises to the top, takes charge, and gets the job done. And the better way would be to have everyone accountable. So what the Kagan supports is that those structures ensure that everybody really has a voice, everyone contributes, and has that equal participation. And that was very beneficial. No one gets that opportunity to hide. And Mr. Atkins will be next.
I wrote down some highlights of the PD that we had this summer. Kagan showed us the difference between cooperative learning and group work by modeling various activities that align with many different content areas. The activities were used with character building component focused on creating a classroom of responsible citizens. And the PD was infused with research to back up the purpose of what we learned. For example, if we do cooperative learning correctly, we can drastically minimize the gap between lower performing and higher performing students. The various structures modeled during the PD included team building and content-focused structures wherein we were able to experience what it actually feels like to participate and equally engage in the learning process. The most important thing that we took away from our training was learning how well this program aligns with and supports our current evaluation tool for high-quality engagement from our students. As instructional leaders, we can go into any classroom and know if our students are 100% engaged and actively participating in the lesson.
Good evening, Michael Barber, Principal, Rolling Acres Middle School. Thank you for this opportunity to talk about Kagan. I wanted to personally thank Dr. Lathan for bringing the Kagan training to our district. It was an excellent training. It's probably the best training that I've been in several years. It was outstanding. It really gave us me an insight as to the difference between group work and cooperative learning. I think our teachers put a lot of kids in groups and do a lot of group work and try to make it meaningful. But I think a lot of times, like Sue said, kids can hide in group work, and they really can't hide if it's really truly cooperative learning. After our first night, I asked a couple students if they like group work, and they said they absolutely do not like group work. And I asked them why, and they said because one or two people could usually do all of the work, and everybody gets the credit. And in the Kagan model, that is not possible to do. So I'm here to talk really about what we're going to be doing this year as far as the Kagan model. I will be introducing it to the staff. We'll be having conversations around group work versus cooperative learning. I would love to get our entire staff trained. I've already contacted the Kagan group because I really enjoyed it and believe in it, to get pricing on it, to talk with them about how we're going to be able to get that done this year. I would love to discuss with Dr. Kennedy the plans for getting that done this year at Rolling Acres. So it was really a great model. It was really a great training to go through and very worthwhile for the summer. Thank you.
I'm Cindy Clark, and I'm not on your presentation for tonight, but I was supposed to be here, so I am the principal from Richwoods High School. And what I would like to do is that I didn't want to hide and not participate because Kagan would not allow that to happen. So what I would like to do is illustrate to you one of the activities. And Kagan's just a fancy word for learning better. And I think it's, resources that our teachers are going to be able to utilize at Richwoods, and we've embedded it in PD. So one of those examples is round robin. So if we would start at my far right, please, and if you would look to your right and say the most important, or not most important, that would be unfair. But what I would like you to do is the one thing that you've learned thus far from all of us principals and fellow staff members that are so dedicated to 150, would you please turn to your right and say the most important thing that you have heard tonight that will help you in your leadership role. And make sure we all can hear, please. I'm sorry, I can't hear. His microphone is not turned on. Okay.
There we go.
Thank you, Mr. Cloyd.
I think just learning the distinction between cooperative learning and group learning. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's a very important distinction. So yes, that's very.
What is the difference that you did learn?
The idea that you can't hide. And,
wow, let's have a hand. That is positive. Thank you. Mr. Cloyd?
The impact that education and training has on the energy that people bring to their work.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Costick?
I could say little, but the enthusiasm, the things that have been learned and bringing back to the students is what's important to me.
Dr. Lathan?
And we're doing the right thing at the right time for all students and all teachers and principals.
That a lot of staff and students gave up a good part of their summer in order to make themselves and the students better.
Thank you. Reverend Butler?
Yes, the refreshing and the revival of passion.
Thank you. Ms. Ross?
I'm excited, and I've learned that, to see so many exciting people out there. I mean, people are excited about what they've learned, and it shows.
Thank you. Mr. Bateman, your first...
I got it. And that, even without my...
Proud Richwoods parent living the nightlife.
Absolutely. First, I appreciate the enthusiasm of all the presenters, but I will tell you, as a parent of a student at Richwoods, one of my daughter's biggest complaints is coming home and talking about how she's doing all the work and other students are benefiting from what she's doing. So it's very encouraging to me to hear from all the principals the importance of and learning that difference between collaborative learning and group learning and trying to pull out those that are trying to hide and actually reward those students that are putting in the work and putting in good effort. So I appreciate that.
I think that's an excellent point because we're trying to move from direct instruction, which we need at times, but yes, you are very correct. Mr. Wilcoxon.
I've learned that the farther you go along the circle, the harder it gets. I had a really good one, and Mr. Cloyd had a second. I would say that professional development leads to enthusiastic teachers, that leads to enthusiastic students.
Very good. I would stop, but I know I better step now. Yes.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Now we know who is hiding. So I would like to thank you for the opportunity, and Richwoods will be cooperative learning this year, whether we call it Kagan or better instruction. Thank you.
Good evening, Heather Young, Principal at Manual Academy. Thank you for all sharing. One of the things that we learned is that it's also important that when your colleague or peer shares, that you give them praise and feedback on that. And so that's also part of our evaluation process, is that we want to make sure that we give positive feedback to our teachers to help support them. So we want to model that so they can do the same thing for our students. Some of the benefits that I saw with Kagan was equally sharing, which you all did. No one can hide, no matter if you were at the end of the table or not. But also it developed some critical thinking skills, and it also enriches that engagement process. So we try to make it fun. We know students can sometimes get a little bored with direct instruction, and so we want to continue to keep them moving and have some of those mind breaks involved in learning as well. Team teaching or team building is definitely an essential component in terms of having students work together and learn how to work as we prepare them for college as well as the workforce. We have to work with each other, and so you can't just go in your own little area and do your job. There are components of that you have to do, but we have to learn how to work together as a team. So we're building those characteristics with our students. One thing I want to mention is that with Kagan, although it is a program, if it's implemented correctly, scaffold for teachers, modeled for teachers so they can carry it into their classroom, they don't get so overwhelmed. So one of the things that manual that we're going to try to do is to model these strategies, because they're really best practices. We'll model these strategies, allow teachers time to absorb, implement in their classroom, come back and figure out how we can tweak them to make them better, and then you add another layer on so that teachers don't get overwhelmed and we get consumed with, oh, this is just another thing that we have to do. Because really, although it's copyrighted by Kagan, they are best strategies and best practices for students to achieve. So again, thank you for allowing all of us. I think all of the administrators really enjoyed having this opportunity. Sometimes we don't get a chance to go take professional development throughout the year because we're trying to maintain our buildings. So this was an opportunity for us to have definitely a worthwhile experience. Thank you.
We also had, this year, right after school was out in June, we had Thinking Maps for Leaders. And we have Carrie and Diane Duke who will present on that.
Hi, Carrie Berger, Assistant Principal at Glen Oak Learning Center. And over the summer, the current administrators did a 2-day training focusing on thinking maps and how to correctly implement them, with the 2 questions being knowing how to use them and knowing how to apply them. So thinking maps ask, how do we want to think about it? So we took a look at each of the 8 thinking maps and broke down the guiding questions used to determine which maps should be used in certain circumstances. So as administrators, we decided to look at how we could model or use these thinking maps in our leadership roles. Some ideas that we came up with for implementing these: the circle map for parent involvement, the bubble map for school culture and climate, the double bubble map for our family needs, our tree map for our plans for our parent involvement, our brace map for the structure of our community, and then our flow maps we'll start using for our meeting agendas, and then finally our multi-flow maps for problem solving. So this 2-day training gave us additional knowledge, support, and ideas to help us continue to implement the district's Thinking Maps initiative with the integrity and fidelity it needed.
I'd like to thank Carrie for taking about everything I had on my list. So I'll just say that I think that Thinking Maps, we're in about our 5th year, I believe, of implementation. And I was at the pre-K program when we initially implemented thinking maps. And one of the first questions that teachers, good teachers, always ask when we bring anything to them, no matter how well designed the professional development is, no matter how good the snacks are, they want to know, is this the right thing for my students? And that's a hard sell sometimes. So we looked at the research, which was provided greatly by the Thinking Maps company, but it also could be supported and backed up. And thinking maps are basically just a visual pattern to support the fundamental thinking processes that we go through when we're trying to solve problems, to learn things, and that made a big dent with teachers buying into thinking maps, and they began to implement them in pre-K classrooms. The thing that was most exciting for me about thinking maps, because I do believe in thinking maps as strategies to help children learn, and not just in pre-K, not just in 5th grade or 8th grade or high school, but throughout their lifetime and on their job. I find lots of ways to use thinking maps to help me think through things that I have to solve as an administrator. When I went to Hines, lo and behold, what do I see but a number of my Valeska babies? But they're no longer, they're now primary students. And to see them having grown in their skills and abilities and their use of thinking maps, initial implementation at the pre-K level it looks so beautiful when you see it at that 2nd, 3rd, and 4th grade level, and students don't have to have teachers draw the thinking map for them and start the process. Students know when they have certain information, certain things that they have to solve, they begin to pull out those thinking maps and draw them themselves and start to put the information appropriately in there. And so I see thinking maps as having been, from just my observations, a very influential tool in preparing our students, not just to be kindergartners or 5th graders, but to be lifelong learners. So I think thinking maps are a wonderful asset to our schools, and I certainly hope that we continue using and really deepening the implementation, which was what our administrator training was about earlier this summer, helping us know how to help our staffs implement even deeper with thinking maps. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Joe Gallo, and I don't mean to steal a tagline from Brett Elliott, but I am the proud principal of Sterling Middle School. The reason I am extremely proud, amongst many reasons, is that we are the first school outside of the city of Chicago and state of Illinois to have the middle years program for the National Baccalaureate. And I might be overstepping my bounds. I know that I'm up here to talk about Growing Up Ready, and I know that my name might be announced later on about the IB training, but they do kind of go together. In May, when I was announced as principal, I had the opportunity to attend a training in St. Pete Beach, Florida, for Category 1 Middle Years Program Head of Schools. I do have some experience working in a national or an IB school, but my experience with the middle years program was based on reading what I read and researched through the internet, so I didn't really have a working knowledge of what the middle years program had to offer. And so I was curious when I attended the training as to how it was going to benefit me as the instructional leader for my school so that I could carry the IB forward. Prior to me going, or actually I should say, right after I went and attended the training, we had our authorization meeting, and so like I said, probably since then we have been authorized. But in speaking intelligently about the IB program, like I said, I was curious as to what the IB training was going to offer us, or offer me. I had the opportunity to go through the process, and about a day and a half of the program was dedicated to us going through a a unit plan, which is a big part of the IB curriculum. All of our teachers during the course of last year they got to implement 2 unit plans and spent about 2 days apiece creating each of the unit plans. In order to carry on the program with fidelity, every year, our teachers have to develop 2 unit plans that are interdisciplinary. So I had the opportunity during the course of the 3-day training for about 1 day to actually go through the process myself. It's painful, it's powerful, the conversations you have with your peers are amazing, but at the end of the day, it's all about students and student learning. There's a lot of debate and discussion about what our essential questions should be, how we could increase the rigor of the curriculum in the units that we had to offer, how we were going to assess our students. So like I said, at the end of the day, in the 3-day period that I had, that was one of the most powerful things I took away from that training, was going through the process. And as an instructional leader for my building, having gone through the process myself to help lead our teachers to build relevant, rigorous unit plans to help our students learn. That was a big part of it. Probably the biggest part of that training for me was connecting and networking with teachers, administrators, IB coordinators in various sects of society. Several of the people that I met were from Florida. I met several people from New York, one from Cameroon, one from Texas, several from Oklahoma, a couple from Milwaukee. And really it was interesting to have conversations with people who have the programs and are different cycles of the program. Some were at the initial stages where they just applied for IB authorization. Some were at the same stages that Sterling was at, on the verge of authorization, and some schools have been authorized for 3 or 4 years. And so have those conversations with the instructional leaders of their buildings to not only discuss the differences of the buildings, but more importantly, to discuss what we had in common. That's really what IB is about, is to understand the differences and celebrate the differences of different schools and different societies, but also recognize the commonalities. So that was a very powerful part of that training for me. Shortly thereafter, about a month and a half after that, I had the opportunity to go to Sanford, North Carolina, to visit a school, Sand Lee Middle School, just outside of Sanford, North Carolina, to visit their Paxton Growing Up Ready lab. It was an amazing experience. I had the opportunity to evaluate last year Lincoln K-8, a teacher who teaches this course. I thought it was fascinating as an evaluator, and I thought it looked like a lot of fun, quite honestly, and would have loved the opportunity as a student, working through the modules, not just the reading portion, but also the application portion of once you actually read through the modules and you take the quizzes on the modules and have the opportunity to apply what you learn and put that into place with the projects that take place at the modules. I had the opportunity to go through the modules myself. During the 3-day training, I had the opportunity to go through about 12 modules. And like I said, the facility was amazing. That experience was wonderful. But what I also took away with that is how we're going to implement with fidelity the Paxton program, but also implement the design portion or design component of IB, because there is supposed to be a lot of self-exploration, self-driven design as part of IB. There's 50 hours that go along with the IB portion, and so making sure that we not only take what our students learn through the modules, but also how they're going to implement that and basically make that relevant to what they do in creating projects for design. So I had a wonderful opportunity to go to both trainings. I took a lot away from both of those. They were powerful, and I look forward to bringing back what I learned from both trainings and sharing that with my faculty. So thank you.
Hi, my name is Julie Rayner Stevenson. I'm going to be teaching health occupations at Woodruff this fall. District 150 sent me to Sanford, North Carolina this summer to train on the Paxton-Patterson modules. During that time, we went through all 17 modules, which explore healthcare occupations. and we got to do things like suturing, start IVs, dental molds. It was pretty amazing. I had a lot of fun, and I think the kids are going to have a lot of fun with it also. So thank you very much.
Mr. Rice?
Good evening. My name is Andrew Rice, and I teach the engineering and industrial technology classes at Manual Academy. And I as well had a chance to go to Sanford, North Carolina to learn the construction part of Paxton's program. And if I can show you, did I? Sorry about that. Oh, there you go. The right one? Yeah. All right, thank you. And what they do as far as their construction program is they break what they have, designed as the top 20 skilled trade areas in construction. And kind of read through these, just blueprint reading, electrical, HVAC, roof framing, cabinet making, estimating skills, masonry, survey and site planning, communication, finish carpentry, painting, tile setting, concrete, green construction, plumbing, wall framing, drywall, hand tools, power tools, and weatherization. And it says, 20 10-day construction trade areas. And it's designed basically to give the students, and they pair up in groups of 2, to be introduced to different parts, different trades, different skills of the trades. And it's, how does building skills work? Multiple modalities of instruction. Students read, they listen, they watch. As the other Paxton labs, they start out with a reading assignment, which is followed by, testing. And then it goes into, and one of the things that I really liked, each station has their own group of tools. Even though there might be, 15 of the same tool in the room, each module has its own tools, so it keeps the students from kind of wandering and keeps them in their own area. And I thought that was something that I really liked about it. And they follow through, and finish. And they're actually the instructor that was telling me, they're designed not to have every student finish them. They're basically designed to introduce the skill, the trades to that student and let them get an accurate decision of what they may want to do, or if they're even good at it or interested in it. So it says purpose of building skills, discover interest. They might not really understand if they like plumbing until they try it. And, same with, wall framing and roof framing. You talk about the math that they learn in geometry. Where are they ever going to use that, or where is it applied? Well, then they really see a solid evidence of, hey, I'm using this geometry that I didn't think I would ever use to figure out the angles of this roof. Mm-hmm. And I think it just really, it's just a good fit. And in conclusion, it says, introduces students to careers, opportunities in the trades, increases reading and applied math skills, gives students a sense of completion, builds teamwork, and increases soft skills, just working together and interacting with the instructor, other students, and just really giving them a sense of, hey, I'm actually good at this. I may want to pursue this either, as a career or to, post-education in college. So that's what I have. So thank you. And here's some nice photos that I had of our students actually working in. Oh, yes.
Well, while you're showing the photos, I just have a question.
Sure.
Although this is information that kind of enhances what you were already doing.
It does.
How is it integrated with Skills USA and working? We've been working with that whole program. We don't want to kind of let it go because
it will actually it will fit very well because some of the projects in Skills USA will go right along with the modules.
Right, okay.
And it will actually increase their knowledge of them.
Right, so you are still working with that program?
Yes, yep.
Good,
yep.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. So, thank you.
Are we there yet?
Good evening. I'm Shannon Marlin. We had some major updates to Pinpoint. It is now Pinpoint 2.0. And over the summer, we rolled it out to the principals and the master trainers. And they will take it back, the master trainers will take it back to their schools and train their staff and make sure it is trained with consistency. And I have 3 master trainers here to talk to you and let you know how they're going to roll it out in their buildings.
Good evening. As Shannon said, we spent, as master trainers, spent 3 days last week in training, full days, on the new Pinpoint 2.0. I was actually here in the springtime to, okay, there we go. These are some of the shots of the, screenshots of the new Pinpoint 2.0. It's slightly different if you've been on it before. It's slightly different than what you've seen in the past. So this is part of what we're going to be training our staff on, kind of using the new program. First off, just off the bat, logging in, there is a new username here for everybody, and really it's just adding PSD 150 and a backslash in front of their username. So they're going to learn this as well. This is the announcement page that looks very similar to what it used to be in the original Pinpoint. This is the dashboard where you can see a list of, this one is blank, of course, but list of courses, announcements, and things that are due. And the activities in the courses and users and analytics are listed here. So it's slightly different than what you're used to seeing, but definitely easy to use, easy to navigate. This is a nice area where you can search for your topics. Teachers can plug in that title or ID, just if they're looking for something related to Macbeth, let's say, or Shakespeare, or whatever title or ID number or ID item, they can type it right in there and click find, and it will locate some of the lessons that we mentioned before are already in Pinpoint. Along with that, they are automatically tied to the Common Core state standards. I think that's in this next slide. You'll see there with the course and the course title and the syllabus. Within your syllabus is where you'll find those Common Core standards linked to those specific lessons. Here we go. On the left-hand side, you can see if you need to cover a particular Common Core standard, you can click on that standard, and many of the activities that go along with it will be listed as well in your lessons, set of lessons in those folders that are set there in the middle. So as soon as you click on any of those items in the folders, the lesson plans that are in there, they'll automatically tie to the Common Core standards. So this will really help teachers in writing their lesson plans. They won't be looking for the standards so much, they're already linked. So if they're using this correctly and they're finding their lessons within Pinpoint, they should not have any difficulty stating their Common Core standards.
Can you just go back for this? Are you going to actually show one of the lesson plans?
I don't think we have that on.
Okay, so just stop right here for me.
Okay.
Can we just, on the left-hand side, kind of just bring everyone up to speed? So I'm a first-year teacher.
Okay.
Monday is my first day of school teaching first grade.
Okay.
And there's no way I don't know how to write a lesson plan. Where would I obtain the help for writing a lesson plan? Or is there a lesson plan already available for me?
Within those folders, this is English Language Arts first grade. Within those folders those are the different quarters. So we start off with your Balanced Literacy Toolbox. In that toolbox is basically everything you need to get started to start your school year for first grade. In English, sure. Like your quarter plans or our pacing guides are listed in there. Our district expectations are listed in there. Along with, are you going to try to get? I think we're okay. kind of how to get started, how to set up your classroom. There's documents in there on how to set up, how you should set up your classroom for a first grade for a new first grade teacher. And it's a variety of things, so you can pick and choose. It's kind of a buffet to kind of go through. And then, as you can see, you can go to the quarter one, unit one, and that's the entire unit for the first quarter. And within that unit are your lessons, different lessons that you can use to teach. And again, if you click on each lesson, they're automatically linked to the Common Core standards. Does that help? Okay. And this is what it looks like on the side here. So that overview is what is inside that first grade curriculum folder. Okay, this area shows you what's within each of those folders. So within those folders, you can find assignments, assessments, linked items that are editable. You can teachers have the opportunity to change some of what's already in there. So if they like what is in there already, they can use that. But if they would like to change it up or add something different to make it more personal, they can add that in those editable, in the editable contents. This slide's kind of... Oh, this is our Science Fusion. I think actually what this is showing right here is how teachers can interact with students on discussion boards. And so those discussion threads are actually different students who are responding to a question from a teacher. So if teachers could pose a question on Pinpoint and the kids can answer, and they can reply to each other on here as well. Okay, Molly's going to...
Hi, I'm Molly Herman. I teach the preschool deaf, hard of hearing at Valeska now. We actually have been in school for 4 weeks, so it was the second week of school that I had to leave the babies and go to training, but I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to, because this Thursday we're going to roll out Pinpoint training. Since we have been in school for 4 weeks, we're ready to start some of our professional development at Valeska. So in the afternoon, we're going to go through the slides that were just shown so that it's consistent throughout the whole district, that everyone is getting the same PowerPoint presentation for learning how to use Pinpoint. And then we're going to do a scavenger hunt to get teachers familiar with where things are located and how to use it. And then throughout the week, we're going to have a Pinpoint question of the week to try to get our teachers involved in finding different things, using Pinpoint, and then, trying to do some drawings to get them excited about getting their hands wet with Pinpoint, because if they don't do it, the kids aren't going to do it. And so trying to get them involved and finding ways to adapt it to early childhood as well.
Good evening, I'm Sandy Cantu. I'm an interventionist at Von Steuben. And to finish up on Pinpoint, while we have all of the upgrades on the instruction, we still have all the data. It's not only available, it's easier to be available. If a parent wants to come to me, the things that I can show them about their child, what days that they might have missed, what days they might have misbehaved, what days they were in attendance, and I can show that to them instantly. I can help my principal when she needs to know our Wednesdays are our worst days, our Tuesdays, what behaviors are occurring. I can also show what a teacher is covering. What is it that we need some more help on? If I have a substitute teacher, and heaven forbid there's no lesson plans, I can still look at the pacing guides. I can still help that. If we have a long-term situation with a substitute that might not be trained in that area, I can still keep it consistent, just like for all 1,400 of our students. We can keep it consistent, to make sure that we are able to provide materials that are based on Common Core, resources available, and we can track it. I invite any of you to come over. I'm next door. Feel free, and I can kind of show you how it's updated, what we need to do with it, and I wanted to ask if you had any questions. Thank you.
This year, as we were talking about advanced placement, Dr. Lathan and I discussed that we needed to bring the pre-AP training to the district so that we can get our teachers in the 9th and grade prepared in order to have those same strategies to help those students be successful when they enter into the advanced placement courses. This year, we sent 6 teachers were trained from Manual Academy, Peoria High, and Richwoods. The trainings were held across the country, Chicago, Kansas, and there was another place, I must have forgot to put it on there. And they actually went to they were trained in U.S. history, calculus, music theory, biology, and physics. That seems little, but we have been keeping up with training throughout the last 4 years. 2 counselors and 3 of the high school principals attended the AP annual conference in Philadelphia. No, we can do the pre-AP. You're going to do the pre-AP? Okay.
Apologize, Mr. Nickerson couldn't make it tonight, but Peoria High had the opportunity to host a 2-day workshop for pre-advanced placement courses. We had 2 members from College Board at Peoria High where they had math sessions and English sessions. This is a great opportunity for middle school and high school math and English teachers to collaborate, and from there they got to look at advanced placement AP type rigor and how you can scaffold that down into all of your courses, both in the high school and the middle school, to start preparing those students to take AP courses down the road. One of the things that came out for us at Peoria High also is utilizing our SIP Day that is coming up here soon in September to start basically creating a cohort between Peoria High feeder schools, both elementary and middle school, and start having those conversations between the math and English and eventually all other subjects. So that's how we took advantage of this great opportunity.
Hi, I'm Ethan Graham. I'm a U.S. history teacher at Peoria High, and I was at a training in Kansas City for the U.S. history AP course. And just really quickly, I'll tell you the course is changing for next year. It's completely different, and I'll just tell you what's changing and why I think it's a good thing. The old U.S. history course, you had to cover every single thing that happened from Columbus to Obama, and you had to do it in 180 days, so you had to go really fast, and you couldn't really be rigorous with that. So the new test, it kind of allows us to really slow down, pick a few topics each unit and go deep into them, which increases the rigor. And then, as long as you hit the key themes of history, the kids can still do fine on the AP test at the end of the year because the test is very different. The test kind of now, instead of memorizing thousands of dates and names, they are going to read a prompt and then answer questions about the prompts. So it's kind of like a Common Core based, like the ACT reading test. So it's a lot more rigorous than it has been in the past. The reason is because college professors were saying kids can pass the AP history test and not really be ready for college. They're just really ready to memorize a bunch of things. So it's changing because of that.
Hi, I'm Sean Flaughter at Manual Academy. I actually went to the same training as Ethan did, but I went in Chicago. So to just kind of piggyback on what he said is that there's going to be this new change in the test, and they're actually, instead of focusing on those rote memorization facts and dates, we're going to be focusing on 7 different historical thinking skills and analytical skills, which are causation, continuity, periodization, contextualization, argumentation, use of evidence, interpretation, and synthesis. Now, these are skills that we're going to use in all of our classes, English and U.S. history, whether that's AP or a regular class. So I think we got especially lucky with skills that we'll be able to use throughout the school year and all of our regular classes as well. We're also really excited at Manual this year because it's the first time that our avid students will be in AP classes, so we can make that connection for the first year here too. So we're really going to see whether our hard work has paid off and whether those students are really ready and college bound and prepared to be successful in our school and in the community later on. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Mindy Eden. I had the opportunity to attend a calculus BC training in Chicago. I have taught Calculus AB for 9 years, so I'm very comfortable with the content, but Calculus BC is the second semester of Calculus, so it's Calc 2. And I'm excited this is the first year we've had the opportunity to offer it at our schools, and my principal is very supportive of that as well. We've been pushing for years. And I already have ideas of how to expand it next year. But, well, I'm very enthusiastic about calculus. Anyway, it was very knowledgeable about the content of Calc 2 since it is different than Calc 1. The instructional leader teaches at EMSA. She's a table leader at the College Board readings. So I gained a lot of the content and just philosophy of the open door policy and trying to promote more students to get into those further higher academic math courses. And I know all the students are very excited as well to continue in their progression since they've advanced at such a young age to be able to attain even the enrollment in that course. So very excited. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we also had teachers to attend the IB training. We had 59 teachers that came from Charter Oak, Tree Wind, Markville, Sterling, and Richwoods. They went to Atlanta, Austin, Texas, St. Pete, Florida, and St. Louis, Missouri. They were trained in the following subjects, which is up on the board: the role of the arts, pedagogical leadership, IB middle years, IB primary years, IB continuum inquiry, and the library, etc. And we have several speakers. Joe, you don't have to come back, that will speak to you on their experience at the IB training.
I'm Kathy Morton from Richwoods, and I teach the junior year of the biology higher level, and I'm jumping to the front because that's what Cindy Clark told me to do, and nobody argues with Cindy Clark. So I went to Atlanta, and I would like to thank you all for sending me to Atlanta, and I would like to thank Cindy, and I would like to thank Ravonda for making all of the arrangements and recommending some wonderful restaurants down there. But, so I had to go to training this time because they've changed the curriculum. IB changes their curriculum, and they update it every 7 years, and starting with the May exams in 2016, that the senior class will be taking the exams over the new curriculum, so I have to be prepared to teach this year's juniors the new curriculum. So we spent some time going over and discussing the changes as far as the content. As far as the juniors, the biggest change to the content is we're losing an option. In the past, we had 6 key content areas, and then we had 1 option, and they have taken out that option, moved it towards the senior year, and they've expanded evolution as a key content area for the junior year portion of the curriculum. In addition, some other changes. It used to be that there would be 3 internal assessments that the students have to do. That's what you would consider labs, but the internal assessments are labs where the students have to work individually, coming up with their own idea for the research. They have to come up with their own procedures. They have to decide what data they need to collect, how they're going to analyze it, what statistics they need to run, and then they need to come up with their own conclusions and present that in a formal lab report. And then as teachers, we can help them, and we can they can bounce ideas off, but it's all their own work. So we can't say, oh, maybe you need to try this instead, or I don't think that's going to work. They have to figure that out on their own. The rubrics that IB provides us to grade their work, those have changed. So we spent a fair amount of time at the sessions learning the new rubrics and how they changed and discussing those. We've also spent time going over the new rubrics that are used for grading the written portions of the exam. The exams are not just multiple choice. There's a lot of portions of the exams where they're going over data and they have to answer questions and they have to actually explain and describe and compare. So we're kind of going over how those new rubrics are fitting into the written portions of the exam. What I'm most excited about coming out of that conference is some of the networking opportunities that I had. Were actually, for one of the projects, the students have a Group 4 project, which is supposed to be collaborative between the different disciplines, so whether it's biology and chemistry, biology and physics. Well, there are several of the different teachers from schools around the United States and a school in Brazil, and we are attempting to work out the logistics so that we can have our students all work together to collect data at our own individual schools, and then the students will be pooling their data together, and they'll be working at all of these different sites to work on their projects together. So it's all logistics, but if we can figure out timing, when in which semester and which topic and how we could coordinate it, we're going to try to make that happen this year. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
I'm Dr. Lathan. Madam President, full board, my name is Denise Smith, and I'm the IB coordinator at Mark Bills Middle School. I want to start my presentation with a quote that I happened to jot down during our, when we had our visit from our team. Said the governance and leadership structure enthusiastically supports all aspects of the implementation of the program. And I thought this was very noteworthy to have someone outside of our organization. You've been hearing over and over, the thank yous, and we do appreciate what you do, and we do recognize what's done, but to have it said by someone outside of our organization, and they spent 2 days with us, and they realized and noted that we do have some tremendous support from our administration. This is evident by the 14 members of our staff that you allowed to go to training this summer. We went to Austin, which they want to keep weird, and we went to Keystone. Yes, and it was true. The list represents what was necessary to fulfill the authorization requirements of the International Baccalaureate. We had to have one teacher trained in each of the 8 areas. But we went beyond that and were allowed to send additional teachers so that we could start working on our action plan that we had prepared. We know that the unit plans are rough drafts for developing our curriculum. It's a work in progress that is dynamic and ever looking for what serves our students best. We practice how to teach our students about global challenges and how they are impacted. We will guide them through the challenges with an education framed by inquiry, action, and reflection. We learn methods to empower young people to prepare for a lifetime of learning, to help them determine how best they will learn. Units are designed for learning independently as well as collaboratively. As Joe pointed out, we were able to collaborate with many different individuals who are in different stages of the IB program, and that was invaluable. And we can't thank you enough for that. We shared methods, developed skills for more effective approaches to teaching. We learned the importance of teaching a deeper understanding of the subject group and how to help our students make the connection with the different disciplines. It's very important that they learn that math doesn't stand alone, science doesn't stand alone. Each supports and builds on the other. Global contexts allow students to look at the world as a whole. Units are designed using global context, which are 16 key concepts and related concepts to develop statement of inquiry, which is the why of the lesson. Why are we taking the time? What are the students going to learn? Why are we bothering with it? And it gives it in a format that the students understand. It's student-friendly. We will use the teaching methods we have learned to offer a broad range of content across multiple subjects. We'll be able to use concepts to build student capacity to engage in complex ideas. It's the higher learning that we're trying to develop for all students. The units that we develop will provide a concurrency of learning that we'll be building. It's very important in the IB program to make sure that we can demonstrate not only what we're teaching the students, but that the students are actually growing, that we do have a plan for their growth. We learn how to involve all stakeholders, from students to parents, teachers to administration, community, and beyond. As IB mission states, we are developing inquiring, knowledgeable, and caring young people who help to create a better and more peaceful world through intercultural understanding and respect. Once again, thank you for your enthusiastic support and shared vision. We all recognize we could not achieve our goals without your enthusiasm. Thank you.
Good evening. To Dr. Lathan and the board, my name is Linda Wilson, and I teach second grade at Tree One's K-8 school. I attended the IB PYP Category 2 workshop, and I was when our IB coordinator came around and wanted to know who wanted to attend the conference this summer, I was very enthusiastic. For several reasons. One, I was one of the ones who had been in many staff meetings advocating for Category 2 training. So it was like, oh, wow, I get this opportunity. And so I was very excited about it. And also, I'm a lifelong learner. I'm a parent of students that have attended District 150. I attended District 150. I'm teaching in District 150, and so it is a full circle kind of mentality that I have. The workshop that I attended featured information about teaching and learning, and I participated in a lot of activities that were hands-on learning. But two of the things that really stood out to me were intentional. I think a lot of teachers underestimate what our students know when they come into the classroom. And so our students have those inquiry skills already. We just need to make their inquiry focus and their skills very intentional. And so we participated in a unit provocation activity that encouraged us to see, think, and wonder. And what really struck me is that, when I went to school, there was a lot of themes. It was like, oh, it's the Apple unit, it's the All About Me unit. No, IB is really focused on concepts. It's movement, it's change, it's cycles, it's patterns. And so it is very broad so that it allows the learner to basically drive their own instruction. What do you want to learn about? And so we saw pictures that were about movement, were about actual physical movement. They were about the civil rights movement. And so it encouraged us to see, to think, and to wonder about those pictures. We developed essential agreements for our workshop based on the key concepts, and we collaborated with teachers across the country and the world. There was a teacher that was from Thailand, but she was actually native to the Netherlands, and she was just giving us some of the experiences. And I spent most of the time with one of my colleagues in the training, just like I was anxious, and I was also energetic, and it was that enthusiasm because I really, wanted to, I wish all of my colleagues were there with me to hear what we were hearing, so that I couldn't wait to share with us. So when we got back, our IB leadership team had the opportunity to share the activities and the information that we created on the wiki that was uploaded from our workshop. And the implementation of this IB program and its concepts is not only going to change our perspectives, it's going to change our practices. And that's something that we really, really, really need to do, is to know that these kids, our students, already have those skills, and we just need to be really intentional with helping them hone into it. And so, again, I just wanted to say that we are blessed as teachers in this district to have the opportunity to participate in professional development and have an administration that is very open and interested in student achievement. It's just not professional development. It's also about student achievement. It's not about what I learned at this conference. It's about how I'm going to apply what I learned at this conference and share it with the students that I work with. And so I just would like to thank the board and Dr. Lathan for the opportunity to participate in the professional development this summer. So I'm very excited to share it. Thank you.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
My name is Darius Johnson. I'm an assistant principal at Tree Wind Middle School. I attended the PYP training in Austin, Texas on the 20th to the 23rd. Prior to attending, I knew nothing about IB. I really didn't. I thought it was like a college classes program for, elementary students. But when I got there, I found out that it was a whole lot different from what I thought. What they provided me with when I left, I understood the philosophy of IB. And their philosophy is to create a whole child, or to teach to the whole child and not just to one specific area or content. Now, in school today, we teach, most of our teaching is to the content, and we don't expand that or extend it outside of that, so we kind of teach children in a vacuum. What IB wants to teach kids to think beyond themselves right here in their community, and to think in a worldview, or what they call international mindedness. And this is developed through inquiry, a plan of inquiry, finding a central focus or a central idea. They believe that developing these students, they have to develop these certain attributes. And those attributes are being able to be a good communicator, taking risk. Students will be able to, have open-minded and be able to accept other perspectives about different ideas and different ways of thinking. They want kids to be able to be caring. A lot of times in our school today, we have so much violence. So these are skills that kids really need. And IB focuses on that. And that is the mission. The other attributes are knowledge, understanding what you do and why you do it, understanding what learning is. They want kids to be inquirers. And when you delve into creating a unit, you delve into inquiry, and you help kids to develop that ability to inquire and ask the questions. Okay, it goes back to risk takers, being able to, not being afraid to take a chance of being wrong. The IB program also wants kids to be thinkers, to think. So it's a really deep program. I think I can see the benefit to the PYP program in developing kids as they move up in the grades and helping prepare our school to have a NYP program. So I think it has an excellent foundation. The other attributes that IB focuses on are balance, understanding the difference between intellect, physical balance, and social skills, to balance those things out. How do we all work together? They also want students to be reflective, just like we want teachers to be reflective, right? Think about what you do. Think about the work that you do every day. We want the kids to develop those skills as well. And principle, which is really important. That's something that we all need to think about as we approach our daily work. But I'm not going to linger on here. I think the PY program is an excellent place to start in reculturing a school and reculturing how we think about the children that we work with. I was beneficial. I thought I met a lot of great people there, learned some things, and I hope that we get a chance to finish our candidacy at Tree Wind. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Betty Zilkowski, principal at Charter Oak Primary School.
And this year, we will be going through the verification process to be an authorized primary year program. The training that I was sent to, is my slide here? No? Okay, that's right. The training that I went to helped me understand the philosophy and the structure at the primary years program, at the primary years level. And the IB program at primary years truly kind of embraces the child's natural inquiry. And so the structure is vertical, it's horizontal, it's very exciting, quite actually. We have embedded in this learner profiles, which Mr. Johnson was talking about, qualities that we look to foster in our children, inquirers, to become risk takers, communicators, and principled individuals. All of these attributes are the things that we try to foster in order to make them or help them become active learners, lifelong learners, and compassionate human beings. The training is going to help me to be more effective as a leader as we go through the verification process, and this time next year, we will be an IB primary years program school.
Thank you.
One last item, board members, on the board agenda tonight is item number 9, which is a Children's Home Behavior Health Therapist contract. I know last month when we asked you to approve the Family Corps contract, you asked for some additional data the next time we presented a renewal of a contract. So in your board packet last week, you had some data broken down by school on the children's home contract. And so then I have also asked the 4 principals for those schools just to talk about the role. And actually 2 years ago, they presented when we were at Calvin Coolidge at a board member talking about that. But just to give you some additional data and to see if you have any questions before you vote tonight on item number 9.
At Roosevelt, we are lucky enough to have a children's home therapist working with our students, and the way we work it is we kind of divide our students into 2 different groups. We have Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. And if you think about that typical data triangle, about 80% of our students in the school are Tier 1, so they're not really receiving the interventions that Tier 2 and Tier 3 students are. At Roosevelt, our Tier 2 students receive their interventions through our counselor, and our Tier 3 students receive their interventions through our children's home therapist. And what I'm referring to are social and emotional interventions. Our counselor and children's home therapist, they work with students to meet their social and emotional needs regarding areas like anger management, self-awareness, nutrition, conflict resolution, interpersonal skills, areas that some of our students really struggle with. And so our children's home therapist, she works with about 25 students in a reoccurring one-on-one setting, and those sessions range anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour at a time, and some students need multiple sessions a week. And she also works with about 20 groups of small group students that are between usually 2 and 5 groups, or 2 and 5 students. And then she also goes into classrooms and does classroom sessions with our students. And Joan, our children's therapist, she came on really full-time about February, and from February till the month of May, she had to do 9 SAS screenings at Roosevelt alone. And a SAS screening is something that is done if a child is threatening harm to themselves, others, or someone is hurting them. And that is not something that a lot of our counselors, at least at the middle school level, are trained to do. And so you usually have to call in someone to help you do that. But having Joan on board with us from Children's Home, she was able to do those SAS screenings, and some of our students did end up in the hospital because of those screenings, but then when they returned, Joan was on hand to continue the therapy that they needed so that our students could be safe and would not be a harm to themselves or others. And so that's a really important piece that without Joan at our school, I'm not really sure how we would have handled those particular situations. And an important piece that we look at is office referrals. and how our students are reacting. And between Tier 2 and Tier 3 interventions and our PBIS for Tier 1, we had a decrease of 69% for physical fighting from the school year, at a 13% decrease in aggressive acts. And we're really proud of that because, you know, sometimes our students that have social emotional needs, they tend to react with violence. But with these interventions, we're trying to decrease the amount of violence that is occurring in our schools, on our way to school, on our way home from school, and just, you know, when the students are out and about on their own time. And so we feel like our students are trying to make better choices, and our children's home therapist is really an important part of this.
Whittier also saw a great decrease in disciplinary issues over the past year. We had a 56% decrease in violent and aggressive acts. We had a 63% decrease in referrals to the office, and we had a 54% decrease in suspensions. Clocking 22 hours of PBIS, our counselor is an integral part of our PBIS team, and she set up sessions with individuals and groups to target Tier 2 and Tier 3, much in the same way that Jamie discussed. Her presence in the school was valuable because she enhanced the focus of our Whittier Ways expectations and worked with the students who needed extra time and attention to achieve those. Aside from meeting with countless individual students, she ran 25 groups and consulted with 20 teachers.
Good evening. I'm Renee Andrews, and not only am I the principal at Tree 1K8, I am also the principal over day treatment. And day treatment is where our children's home staff member, Molly, helped us out, and she had various integral responsibilities at day treatment. She currently has 6 open cases with our students, which allows her to work with our students not only at school, but outside of the school with them and their families. She is a part of crisis situations. She has daily scheduled meetings with students and meets with students on an as-needed basis, and not just the students on her caseload, but any student that may be in need. She collaborates with school social workers to jointly conduct bi-monthly groups, and she acts as a liaison between school probation officers and families. Her impact in our building is unmatched. She de-escalates situations daily, allowing less disruptions to the learning environment, and she has definitely established a strong rapport with the day treatment students, and they look to her as a resource.
Good evening, I'm Tom Bloomer. I'm the principal at Woodruff Career and Technical Center. Part of our school, we have 3 schools in one, as you know. On the top floor, we have our safe school, and that's where we had Rebecca Goddard, who has moved on, but she was our therapist through the children's home. Between the 2012-13 school year, we saw a decrease in 50% of the suspensions in our safe school. And this is in part due to the fact that Ms. Goddard was able to go into the classrooms at the point of an incident and de-escalate it at that point. Many of our students in the safe school have dealt with suspensions and expulsions on a continual basis. With her up there, we were able to reduce that, and by reducing that, that means these students were able to get their education and go back to their home school. The difference between the other counselors that we have there at Woodruff and the children's home counselor is that she's able to go to homes and do family wraparound as well as individual and group counseling. So without her in the building, the reduction of suspensions would not be as great.
Okay, don't go. I want to just jump ahead on the agenda under the grading policy. Since you're here, most of the people left that we were going to ask some questions to, so can you help us out quickly? The grading policy, we presented that last month. I know you've had an opportunity as building principals, and there's a couple of teachers that are still here. There was a question, I shared this at the Principals Institute last week in reference to feedback from a parent that we received, that number one, and Ms. Brown, you actually were on the grading committee for the past 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you just briefly share, remember I provided the example last week that a parent felt that if I showed up to class, if I show up tomorrow, I don't have my homework, and Ms. Costick is absent, so she comes back on Wednesday. I was there on Tuesday without mine, that both of us, Ms. Costick will have an opportunity to receive full credit, and then I might be dropped a letter grade. Can you kind of talk about the discussion we had as administrators last week and what will be shared with your teachers on Thursday when they return? And actually, any of you can jump in.
I don't remember the exact wording when not having it in front of me, but one of the discussions we had is that we wanted to put some wording in the policy that made it so that teachers would feel comfortable allowing that student to make up the work, because there was kind of a discussion, if it wasn't put in the policy, teachers might not feel safe, because they want to follow the policy that you set forth. And so by putting the new verbiage, I think it's just a line.
Teacher discretion.
Yeah, it's up to teacher discretion whether they lower the grade or allow that student to make up a grade, because one of the big discussion was a student that's always there and always turns in their assignment, they just forgot one, left it sitting on the kitchen table, and it was a fluke, and that would not seem fair for that child to get a 0, and it could be very detrimental to that child's entire day. And so they were going to leave it up to teacher discretion so that teachers were allowed to do what they felt was in the best interest of the students.
Okay. Can you also address the question or comment or concern that came up that we are allowing suspended students to make up work, or allowing them to, I guess, receive the same advantage of students that are in class every day? Kind of the discussion we had about, should we penalize basically twice suspended students as it relates to making up work?
One of the big discussions that came up was some people felt like that people were trying to be punitive with the grading policy, and almost like a double jeopardy. The student, they got in trouble, probably something discipline-wise, so they're suspended from school. Well, if that child is willing to do the work and make up the work, why should they automatically receive a 0 when they're doing the work and making it up? They've already been suspended and had consequences for their actions. Why should they be suspended for their grade as well, or penalized for their grade as well?
Does that address the comments or concerns, I think, board members, that you had as it relates to the administrative procedure for the grading policy? Or any other questions around that?
I think it does. The concern was that, in effect, the student that was doing the work was going to be, in effect, disadvantaged because the policy would favor someone who cut class and then came back and did the work.
Right.
And this, I think, clears that up.
Okay. And so that will be noted on the information that, the final information that goes out to parents on Monday, first day of school. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. That is the end of professional development. Thank you. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep going. We saw the slide. We thank you. We appreciate it. We're going to keep moving.
I just want to quickly say that even though we receive a lot of information at this meeting, and it takes a while to receive that information, I look forward to this meeting because everybody is so enthusiastic. And the other thing is, somehow this meeting always turns out to be the most entertaining of the year. So I always look forward to this meeting.
Thank you, everyone, for participating.
Can you turn on the lights? Oh, okay.
Okay. So we've done the grading policy then. Okay, so we have a budget presentation by Mr. Wilcox.
While we're transitioning, I would like to make one announcement that we didn't have an opportunity to make earlier. Just a reminder, as we start the 2014-15 school year, that 26 of the District 27 schools will be participating in the community eligibility program. It basically means that every school outside of Richwoods in the district will offer students free breakfast and free lunch. So Richwoods was the only school that did not qualify. We're going to work hard this year to see if we can get Richwoods qualified for next year. But once again, 26 of our 27 schools, every child, regardless of the parent's income, is able to receive a free lunch and a free breakfast daily.
I can go ahead and start. Okay. The focus of this presentation is really on budget planning. The actual development of the fiscal year 15 budget will continue through the next couple weeks and will be presented to the board at the August 25th meeting. Part 2 of the presentation, when it comes up, I will offer some of my observations on budget process and challenges in 2015 and beyond, and opportunities in budget development. The 2015 budget adoption process and timeline, we're doing this presentation today on August 15th, basically discussing 15 budget planning reviewed with the board. On the 22nd, we will post the initial 2015 budget for the 30-day period. On August 25th, we will discuss that budget with the board for their review and discussion, and that's the next meeting. And then on September 22nd, we will have the budget hearing and then hopefully board action on that budget. This is where I need a slide. Oh, okay. Sure. While I have a break, I would like to recognize Carla, who's her first day back, and she's stuck this out through this board meeting. She's part of the budget team, and Mike McKenzie, who wasn't feeling well and left just a little bit ago. Talk a little bit about the 2014 amended budget, and I'm basically focusing on 4 operating funds, which are the Education Fund, the Operation Buildings and Maintenance, Transportation, and the IMRF Social Security Funds. The 3 primary revenue sources are property taxes at 30% of the operating revenue, general state aid, which is 30% of the operating revenue, and federal sources, which are 20%. Those 3 sources of revenue combine for about 80% of our operating budget. On the expenditure side, expenditures for salaries and benefits total about 80% of the budget. The second largest area is purchase services at 14%. So between salaries, benefits, and purchase services, we're at 93% of our operating budget. So our key revenue sources, again, local property taxes, general state aid, federal sources, and to a lesser extent, restricted state grants and corporate personal property replacement tax. Planning assumptions that we're looking at for 2015 for local property taxes. Right now, the EAV, which is the base for our property taxes, optimistic prediction is level equalized assessed valuation. I'm meeting with the supervisor assessments tomorrow, and we're going to talk about the school district equalized assessed valuation. The Southtown TIF is expiring, or expired in 2013, so that will be a slight bump to our equalized assessed valuation. Given these factors and the fact that we're at our maximum tax rates for these operating funds, we are projecting level property tax revenue for 2015 revenue. General state aid, which is one of the other large sources of revenue for the district. The appropriation that was passed by the General Assembly and approved by Governor Quinn had an appropriation increase of $80 million in general state aid, which sounds like a lot, but it comes out to 1.8% of the program. It's still prorated at 89% of the state foundation level, which is $16.99, which is the same level as 2014. So our current projection is general state aid will be a slight decrease for 15, but again, we don't have the final number on that yet. Planning assumptions for restricted state and federal revenues. State funding for mandatory categoricals, which is special ed, transportation, is basically flat as general state aid. We have a reduction in our budget for the federal school improvement grant. It's $2.3 million, and that won't be available in 2015. So overall restricted grant funding, other than the SIG funding, decrease is projected to be level in the 2015 budget. On the expenditure side, I mentioned salaries and benefits total almost 80% of our expenditures, and purchase services are total about 14%. still don't have a slide. There's a slide in the presentation where we look at our 3-year staffing trends at a consistent point in time over 3 years. So it's in July, middle of July in 2012, 13, and 14. The change from 2012 to 14 is a total staff change of 23 employees. From 13 to 14, it's a change of -6. So over this 3-year period, basically our staffing has stayed fairly level over that period of time. We do have a shift between paraprofessional clerks and hourly part-time employees, and that's a shift from contractual to hourly, mostly teacher's aides, and we've also added some teacher's aides and tutors in one-on-one attendance. So basically, again, salaries, benefits are the largest component of the budget, and we've basically stayed pretty level with staffing over the last 3 years. As far as budget purposes, we'll have negotiated and non-negotiated general salary increases up to about 3%. Our average salary our salary costs are currently projected to increase about 1.6%. And while there is that salary increase built in there, is turnover, which actually helps keep the overall salary costs down. So the summary, basically salaries and benefits, I think we have a pretty modest increase in those costs that we'll show in the 15 budget. Planned purchase services, we have utility costs expected to increase anywhere from 2.5% is the federal government's current projection for increases in electricity to 5.5% in natural gas. We have 2 schools coming online with air conditioning that will increase our energy costs. Our insurance costs for 2015 are up about 3.1%. We're planning on decreased costs in legals, external legal costs, due to our hiring of an internal legal counsel. We have some energy efficiency work that's been completed that will hopefully lower our electric costs. And so we're currently projecting level costs for purchase services. And again, that was the second largest increase in the budget. So our 15 budget development parameters, most revenue, this is a summary, most of our revenue sources are stagnant at best. Our federal and state restricted grant funding is uncertain at this time other than the SIG funding. Salaries and benefits will continue to increase and taking an increasing share of the budget. Let's see if I can get this back. Staffing counts are level and continue to be level and reviewed and prioritized during the year. And again, teaching and learning support will continue to be the high priority. Classroom support, teacher development, instructional equipment, and facility repair and improvements. And just a few words about capital improvements. While the physical condition of the schools continues to improve, many significant building needs remain. A lot of our schools are very old and basically, from my observation, have been neglected for a while, and we've been putting a lot of money into upgrading our instructional spaces. 16 schools have air conditioning, 7 are partially air conditioned, and 4 have no air conditioning. We're going to continue to focus on student safety improvements. We worked on some security entrances and cameras at several of the schools. We're putting fencing in at some of the schools to help protect the children, and improved lighting. Funding for capital outlay and facilities improvement is critical, but will need to be reduced or alternative funding sources developed. So that's kind of an overview of the parameters for fiscal year 15 budget development. I'd like to talk briefly just about some planning initiatives and challenges. So what are the challenges for 2015 and beyond, and how do we better position ourselves for these budget challenges? This is an interesting table. It's a trend from 2011 to 2013, and these are audited expenditures. And you can see that the revenue over these 3 years has actually decreased by 0.8% audited revenues, where expenditures have increased 5.3%. So that's a 2-year increase of roughly 2.2%, which is modest and in line with inflation and general salary increases. When you look at 2014, now these are budgeted numbers, these aren't audited numbers, so there could be some adjustments in here. From 11 to 14, again, revenues are stagnant, and we had a 3% increase in expenditures. So the challenge really is our expenditures are basically keeping up with inflation, or are near inflation, but the revenues, you have stagnant general state aid, you have stagnant property taxes, so our overall revenue picture is the one that where we're really challenged. So again, in summary, over the past 4 years, expenditures have increasingly exceeded revenues, continuing a trend of flat to slightly decreasing operating revenues and modest expenditure increases that are averaging less than 3%. Revenues, our local tax revenues, are basically stagnant, and it looks like that could be the norm for a period of time. State funding, we have revenue shortfalls. There's the question of the continuation of the temporary income tax, that's in question, and that would surely affect our state funding. General state aid and categoricals, there's funding challenges and prorations in those, and the 800-pound gorilla out there is pension reform, what's going to happen with underfunded systems and possible pension shift. On the expenditure side, programmatic priorities will continue to require financial resources, and you heard a lot of those priorities at the presentations tonight. Salaries for negotiated, non-negotiated employees need to keep pace with market. Increases in utilities and other costs will continue. And finally, staffing levels need to be adjusted for enrollment changes and program needs. So how do we better prepare for our financial future? Strategic planning, strategic goals, priorities, action steps should continue to be reached through consensus, be clear and actionable, and have appropriate performance measures. It's one of the things that I noticed when I came to the district, that we have those elements in the district strategic plan. We do have very clear action steps, and we have performance measures for those action steps, which is very important. Current new district action steps must be clearly identified, and in my notes I underline prioritized and supported. Financial planning and budget development must be better integrated with the instructional program planning. Again, initial observation, I think the finance side and the instructional side need to work together on budget planning and priorities, and I think we've started taking steps in that direction. And finally, lesser district priorities must be assessed and evaluated for reduction or elimination. Everything can't be a priority. We need to identify what are the priorities and support those priorities, and things that aren't priorities we should really look at as that, lesser priorities. Enhancing revenue, I think there's a recognition that most of the revenue sources that we have are beyond the control of the district. We talked about state funding. There's challenges in state funding, and we're sure not looking for a windfall in state funding for a while. Local tax revenues, we have, again, stagnant EAVs. Most of our operating taxes are at the maximum tax rates. But all revenue sources must be further analyzed to maximize any opportunities for improved revenue generation. Efforts should be expanded to increase state, federal, private grant support, private and corporate giving, and long-term facilities improvements need to be addressed and secured. We need to have funding for facility improvements, either health, life, safety bonds, or revisit sales tax increase, or other sources of revenue if we can develop those. How do we better prepare our financial future with expenditure controls? Again, staffing levels, again, we need to look at staffing levels. They've been level, but again, that's 80% of our expenditures are in salaries and benefits. So we need to look at staffing levels, and they should be appropriate for high priority program needs and student enrollments. Hiring processes and approval should be reviewed, strengthened, and streamlined. Staffing and program levels should be consistent with the adopted budget plan, and mid-year changes should be minimal. And the finance area should strengthen financial policies and procedures, improve communication and training, and monitor compliance. So budget control, again, we've talked about collaboration between the finance side and the instructional side. Budget planning, development, and assessment should be inclusive and collaborative process among district administrators. District administrators should be involved in budget decisions and development and should be responsible for adherence to the approved budget plan. Responsibility for budget control and management should be delegated and assigned to program administrators. And finally, the annual budget planning cycle should be developed and adopted with planning beginning in the fall prior to the upcoming year. We're really working on our 2015 budget right now, and we're already almost 2 months into the fiscal year. We really should start budget planning much earlier. So those are my observations. And finally, a quote from Henry Ford: "If everyone is moving forward together, then success will take care of itself." So, thank you. I tried to go through that as quickly as I could, and I will take any questions that you may have.
Questions or comments?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Wilcoxon, for the summary and the analysis. One of the things I took a look at was we have some contracts that we're actually voting on tonight and some others, and they appear to show up. I went back over the last couple of years, and some of these things appear to show up at various times of the year. And I'm wondering if we can get these contracts on an annual cycle at the start of the school year rather than have them sort of come halfway through the school year. And I know some of them are based on funding and new availability. Is there a way to make sure that some of that gets taken care of all in the same very short time period, or is that practical to do that?
There's a combination. For example, the Family Corps contract, Children's Home, it's all about the funding source. If it's coming out of Title I or IDEA, we have to wait until we receive that allotment, submit our grant, and receive approval before we start spending or entering into contracts. For example, we can't have any contracts that are approved before July 1. You'll notice this bill and last bill, like all the campus learning was on there.
Right.
So everything ties into, like I said, the requirements from that particular grant. If it's ed fund, we can move a little bit faster, but once again, those salaries and the positions are driving that. So we're working, trying to get those done and on the board agenda as soon as possible. But things we can group together and put in a couple months in advance, we'll do that.
Yeah, well, based on what I found is that about half of what we spent last year has already been dealt with for this year. So there's another 50% of that hasn't been recognized, and if we're going to do those things. So we're talking about, $600,000-700,000 additional dollars in programming that might be required. And I'm sure that's sort of taken into an annual budget cycle, but to have to do this sort of piecemeal throughout the year makes it very difficult to look at the whole picture.
Can you give us an example of one that, I know you have on your spreadsheet?
I've got on my spreadsheet. Well, for example, the contract extension with First Student on buses.
Remember that, and that's coming up in December, and actually we'll start presenting that information in November, but we've been working also trying to see if we could also staff the positions to see if we would not need that contract. And actually we met about that on that, 2 weeks ago, I think, with Mr. Collins, and so we're asking for an update because we need to also start looking at those rates. So we're trying to figure out what options we have. So that
Another one last August was the Staff of Life nursing agreement that was paid from the Ed Fund for $100,000.
And we are, where are we at, Maureen, for that one?
We should be able to, we're figuring out now if we need to continue that contract, so that will go for approval at the next board meeting. We're waiting to find.
Based on the hiring of nurses.
Okay, well, I'd be happy to share this with you. The point of it is, as much as possible, if we can get this consolidated so that we can deal with them as a group, because if they sort of come up piecemeal, it's sort of first come, first served, and then you say, oh, by the way, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's, as we start managing some of these budget issues, you've got to really pin these things down in a more defined fashion early on and not have them sort of come up ad hoc.
It's one of the things that the finance team is talking about is the whole purchase order process. And a lot of the purchase orders you could take to the board very early in the fiscal year, and those would then cover the whole fiscal year.
Okay, thank you. Just, if I could, one other thing, and that is, I made a couple notes here. One of them is the assumption about the EAV value and the proration from the state of Illinois, which I think both of those are extremely optimistic. I am very, very concerned that the EAV number is not going to be static. I think it's going to drop again. And I think the 89% proration from the state of Illinois is extremely optimistic. And I think a lot of this depends on what happens in the election in November. And we could see some real difficulties if that thing doesn't get prorated at a higher percentage. It could drop to, what, 83, 84% we've heard at some point?
Well, the state board right now, they have their appropriation. The appropriation, according to the state board, will fund general state aid at 89%.
Okay. We'll see.
Well, I think in the past, they've sort of given, I mean, even though it's supposed to be at one level, if it's going to be lower, they've given us a heads up.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounds to me like you're saying that they're telling us that it will be 89% as the heads up that they would give us if it was going to be lower.
That's the communication we've received from the state board.
Anybody else have questions? Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us to the approval of the minutes for July 21st, 2014. Can I have a motion and a second to approve those?
So moved.
Second.
Are there any corrections or concerns with those? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick? Mr. Bateman?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross?
Aye.
Mr. Cloyd?
Aye.
Mrs. Wolfmeyer?
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carried.
That brings us to the audience's opportunity to address the board. As a reminder, this is a business meeting of the Board of Education held in public, not a public meeting. It is also not a question and answer session, and it is not a debate, so there will be no response from the horseshoe unless one of us has comments once the audience comments are completed. Recognizing everyone's First Amendment rights, we still ask that you refrain from speaking about subjects or topics relating directly to district personnel and also those not germane to the Board of Education's authority. We also ask that you refrain from using inappropriate language and keep a civil tone to your remarks. Please also keep in mind that just because something can be said does not necessarily mean that it should be said. When you are recognized, please come to the podium and give your name for the record. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. No one under 18 years of age may address the board unless accompanied by a parent, guardian, or a teacher without the consent of the majority of the board. Terry Knapp.
Yes. I want to say about the meeting tonight, I've never seen in all my 38 years of teaching, nor my connection with the IFT or the AFT at the national level and all the meetings I've attended at various levels, my coaching career, which when I coached, I never let a practice go more than an hour and a half long. 2.5 hours, the administration should be ashamed of themselves to put us all through that, including the board members, and the way it was done. I'm not saying the information wasn't good, but it should have never been presented in that fashion. Now, what I learned this summer, I went to federal court, I went to the state appellate court, I went to the district court, I went to the arbitrations, and this district should be ashamed of itself over how much money they've spent on attorney's fees. This, which is before all of you, I want to know who's going to sign this. Is Ms. Lathan going to sign this? She's the one that caused this. The bullying tactics have got to cease. This started 4 years ago. We talked about bullying. You would think that this labor judge would have taught Ms. Lathan this summer that she can't bully people anymore. We cannot post notices like this 60 days. I've never seen a notice like this in 50 years in the District 150. This is a shame that this has got to be posted in every building in the district, and somebody should pay for this. The Shao trial, again, somebody should pay for that. why a hearing wasn't allowed. The attorneys didn't allow a hearing. Ms. Lathan didn't allow a hearing, didn't tell you you had to allow a hearing, and went to federal court. And the lawyer says, oh, we only lost $20,000. Check his bill. You know what his bill is, Mr. Attorney? Do you know what his bill is for the Shao case? A couple $100,000? I know you can't answer. A couple $100,000, maybe $150,000. Well, when you get into federal court for 3 days, believe me, there were 10 jurors that wasted their time. There was a judge that wasted his time, and it all could have been taken care of with a hearing, with a lawyer telling the board that the hearing had to take place, with a superintendent that said it has to take place. You know, I ran into a young man at Kinko, and he says, well, the thing I like about North Carolina, he was up here doing staff development, the thing I like about North Carolina is we don't have unions. We have a right to work state. We don't have to deal with unions. Next superintendent we get, let's get one that knows how to deal with unions in a union state. Thank you.
Sharon Cruz.
Speaking of money, the Lathan administration has spent over $324,000 on Rosetta Stone. The 2011-12 strategic plan states that the district had completed plans to utilize Rosetta Stone to provide a world language curriculum to all primary students in targeted middle schools. The May 2014 FOIA response does not seem to verify those claims. The response to my request for district curriculum guides and/or instructions to teachers for Rosetta Stone usage was there are no such written documents. Since the program's use is not specified in a curriculum in which teachers are told what to teach and how often to teach it, there's a good chance that the program isn't being used. In spite of the website claims, the FOIA response states that the program has been used at Manual as only supplementary material for Spanish and French. At Tree Win, Rosetta was used for only 3 months until a Spanish teacher was hired. I failed to ask what languages are covered by the over $324,000 purchase. My guess is many more than Spanish and French, which are the only languages used very minimally. The invoices I received gave little hint as to what was actually purchased. Perhaps someone around the Horseshoe would care to enlighten us. One invoice was for 8,500 online site renewals for over $145,000. Of course, there was an original charge for a similar amount. Over $6,000 was spent for instructor training and manuals. If there was a training session, I'll bet there was some money spent on P-cards for food. The FOIA response did not provide the names of teachers who use Rosetta Stone in their classrooms as requested, which probably means there aren't any. The district spends considerable money on textbooks for high school Spanish and French classes and for teachers. The use of Rosetta Stone at only 2 schools as only supplemental resource does not seem to justify spending over $324,000. The bigger question is how many of the other very expensive computer software programs purchased by Lathan's regime are not utilized enough to justify the expense. Quite honestly, I believe you owe us an explanation as to why you approved spending $324,000 for Rosetta Stone. Thank you.
Savino Sierra.
My name's Sabino Sierra, and you know where I live. I say you people should have read the opinion section on September the 9th of this year. It'll tell you the way it should be. And you know, one of your members was bragging how you did some pretty good things in this last school year and what have you. And I don't agree with that, you know. You spent stuff that could have been put off. Like in the treasurer's report tonight, you know. You're admitting that there's a lot of work has to be done on our physical plants, which, you know, I've been on you as people for a long time, and the discipline, too, is bad, still bad. And Madam Chairman, you remarked at one time when I brought it up that you need more time. And you said, when you started 4 years ago with Ms. Latham there, I was squawking about that, and it isn't corrected, you know. There's more bad things that you done in the last school year than good. And I hope maybe you can correct some of them, but I doubt it, you know. If you read this article, you'll find out what the real problem is in this district. For one thing, I've been asking, and you know that I've repeatedly say the superintendent should resign, and some of you people should too. But we'll get to that. Eventually, we're going to get to that, because the people are disgusted, you know. When I come up here and talk, I'm not talking just for myself. People on the street, in the grocery stores, at church, they come up and tell me they might have a good reason why they don't come here, you know. But you don't, I can say truthfully that you people don't have a very good record or respect from the general public. And we're going to see if we can't get something going where you'll find out. Thank you.
Thank you. Did any of the audience comments raise any questions that board members might have for the superintendent? Mr. Cloyd?
Yeah, I would be interested in hearing about the use of Rosetta Stone in terms of its wider use than what was alleged here, so. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to information items. Number one is a policy, attendance and truancy, compulsory attendance. Yes, the administrative procedure.
So in your packet tonight, you had information, and Mrs. Salzman's also here if you have any additional questions. We made some changes. One of the requests that we received, and actually we received it during last school year, and we made a note, if you look on the first page there, we added that if a high school student serves as an election judge, that will be considered an excused absence. So that was a request that we had heard previously, and we wanted to make sure that we updated that. The other changes are changes, for example, to reflect what we have also in our grading administrative policy. Also, we made some changes. For example, on the second page, it talks about after a student receives 3 unexcused absences, that the principal or their designee will meet with the student to discuss the reasons for being absent, the importance of regular attendance, and then they would develop a plan. So once again, we're outlining what we as a district are going to do to help work with students that have attendance issues. Also, how we will refer the matter over to the regional superintendent's office, which is a requirement, and that's on the third page under item number C, upon a student's 9th unexcused absence. So the state identifies them as a chronic truant when they have 9 or more days within the last 180 days. They identify them as a chronic truant. So we made those changes, and am I missing? I think those, and then editing changes. We moved things further back over toward the left and everything. Any questions around those changes? Ms. Salzman, did I miss anything?
Just so we understand, this is the administrative procedure, not the
Yes,
policy.
not the
So the board
policy.
does not approve administrative procedures. They're presented to us as an information item. Then if we have questions or concerns, then we can bring them up or bring them to you.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Cloyd?
I don't know if this is the time, maybe it's later in the meeting, but dealing with the issue of the truancy that was raised during some other presentations in the community the past week or so, the United Way presentation. We talked about truancy. So I don't know if this is the time to bring that up or not. Should we bring that up later?
If it's about truancy, I would go ahead and do it.
Well, it was a presentation, I heard from several people about it this weekend, that, in fact, in our packets tonight, we got a copy of it, but it talks about the relatively high level of chronic truancy in the district. And one of the things I took a look at was the source data for that, and there's a very high correlation between chronic truancy and mobility. A very high correlation. And the point of this is that if we look just at the issue as truancy and not at maybe the root cause, which is mobility, we have not addressed the subject. So if we're going to look at trying to do something about truancy as a built-in problem in our schools, we're going to have to address the issue of mobility and what the root causes of that are in terms of the number of students that change schools. That was the point of this. And administrative procedure of how to deal with that's one thing, but the root cause of truancy and the root cause of that is something else. I think we need to make sure that people understand that there is a root cause here that is to some great extent beyond the reach of the school district to solve on its own. That's the point of that. That's the point of that discussion.
Go ahead.
I would think that the issue with mobility is because of the fact that families are moving a lot.
Right.
And yes, you're right, the district, there's nothing we can do about that.
I do want to say that we have looked at that issue. It's always been the correlation there. We've looked at that issue, which we could revisit it at some point, but we had talked about wherever a student starts school for that year, they stay there no matter if they move or not. But we looked at the issue of the cost of transportation for doing that, because if we say you're going to remain here even if you move across town, we got to provide you transportation. So, I mean, it can be looked at again if there is money in the budget for that, but that was what stopped us before, was we can keep a child, like some of our schools have that policy, like Valeska, for instance. And I believe we have a couple other schools that say, if you start school here, you can stay here the whole year.
Well, I guess.
It is definitely a problem, but we have to make the decision to find the money to be able to fund it.
But I think you also have to look at, like Mrs. Costick said, and we have looked at leaving them at the same school for the whole year. However, every time a family moves, they are uprooted. And so it's very possible that kids are going to miss 2 or 3 days, even if it's at the same school. So those are the different kinds of things that come into play.
I'm not suggesting we aren't trying to address it. What I'm saying is that to simply say there's a truancy problem without looking at the things that drive that.
Oh, I think we've had these discussions, like Mrs. Ross said,
well,
for several years.
My point of bringing this up is that there was a substantial amount of coverage of that one particular statistic in that United Way report. And it did not talk about any other root causes. It just said, this is a number, and it's been very, very high in District 150, and there was no explanation or discussion beyond that. Maybe in the presentation there was that, but it left the impression that it was something we were doing wrong, and that we weren't getting the problem solved, and it's much more complex than just saying you've got a number there that's too high.
Well, the neat part about that is, with Common Core, wherever they go, they will get the same education, and we need to highlight that as well. Right. Even though we have a high truancy problem, which is the root cause is mobility, they will still get the education, and we're here to serve the children. So, maybe
as long as they can get
to
class. That's
Pardon me?
As long as they can get to school and to class.
Right.
That's the point. Okay. Maybe that's off the subject, but I think it's something we should keep in mind here.
Thank you. Next item is POs over $2,500. Are there any questions for Mr. Wilcoxon? Seeing none? Brings us to report a request under the Freedom of Information Act and status of such requests.
Since our last board meeting report on July 21st, 2014, we received 4 new Freedom of Information Act requests. Of these new requests, 3 were filled. There were 4 pending requests noted on the July 21st, 2014 board report. 3 requests were filled. We received 87 requests for this calendar year.
Thank you. That brings us to the consent agenda. Mr. Cloyd, would you read that for us tonight?
Yes, Madam
Let's
President, I will do
spread that pain
that.
around.
I'll do that, thank you. Item number 1, gifts to the school district this meeting totaling $896, year-to-date $2,217. Proposed action is that the Board of Education accept the following donations and letters of appreciation be sent to the donors. $896 by Peoria Rotary North to Roosevelt Magnet School to be used for funding new playground equipment. Donations totaling $6,000 were made to the District 150 Foundation by Unity Point Health, Methodist Medical Center, Heritage Bank, Moore & Kerr Engineering, Hanson Professional Services, K2 Benefits, PCM&D LLC, and Keith Engineering Design. Item number 2, payment of bills. Item number 3, the Human Resources Report. The proposed action is the appointment, employment, compensation, performance, resignation, retirement, or discharge of an employee. Item number 4, payment for travel. Item number 5, intergovernmental agreement between District 150 and the City of Peoria regarding provision of sworn city police officers for District 150 high schools. The proposed action is that the Board of Education approve the attached 4-year intergovernmental agreement with the City of Peoria to procure 4 city police officers to contribute to a safe and secure environment at Peoria High School, Manual Academy, Richwoods High School, and Woodruff Career and Technical Center at an hourly rate of $47.01. A 5th officer will be assigned to cover any police officers absent at no cost to District 150. Item number 6, transfer and sale of real estate located at 839 West Moss Avenue, commonly known as Washington School. The proposed action is that the Board of Education finds the terms and conditions of the sale of the property to the Montessori Children's House of Peoria as set forth in the city's notice dated July 23, 2014, including the 120-day closing request, to be fair, reasonable, and acceptable to the Board, and that the Board directs the superintendent and staff to acknowledge receipt of the notice, to inform the city of the Board's acceptance of the terms of the sale, and to take any and all necessary steps herein required to close the transaction. Item number 7, Soliant Healthcare Client Services Agreement. The proposed action is that the administration be authorized to enter into a client services agreement with Soliant Healthcare to assist with the completion of projected reevaluations for students with disabilities, requests for an initial evaluation, and other duties associated with the job responsibilities of school psychologists. The agreement will allow for the district to partner with a school psychologist candidate with Soliant Healthcare. The proposed amount requested for approval will be approximately $102,276 if the candidate works 180 days. The hourly rate charged will be $75.76 per hour. The agreement would be in effect for the 2014-15 school year and allow the district to hire the candidate if desired for the 2015-16 school year. The expenditure is going to be funded through the educational fund. Item number 8, Easter Seals Board Certified Behavioral Analyst, BCBA contract. Proposed action is that the administration be authorized to enter in a contract with Easter Seals to secure board-certified behavior analyst services for students across the district with autism, as well as students in need of behavioral therapy assessment. The anticipated expenditure requested for authorization will not exceed $86,400 unless additional IEP requirements necessitate service increase and the expenditure is approved by the Peoria Public Schools Board of Education. The services to be delivered during this upcoming school year will be similar to services the board approved last school year in collaboration with Easter Seals. This agreement is funded through the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act grant. Item number 9, Children's Home Behavioral Health Therapist Contract. Proposed action is that the Board of Education approve a contract with the Children's Home to provide 4 full-time behavioral health therapists to serve student needs at Whittier, Tree Wynn, Day Treatment, Roosevelt, Woodruff Career and Technical Center, and other schools as determined appropriate by the administration. This agreement is funded through the Education Fund. The expenditure requested for authorization will not exceed $206,148 unless additional needs necessitate services and are approved by the Board of Education. Item number 10, revised board policies 5:50 and 7:190. Proposed action is that the Board of Education is asked to approve changes to board policy 5:50, drug and alcohol-free workplace, and 7:190, prohibited student contact, to include language prohibiting the use of tobacco products or any alternative nicotine product, i.e. electronic cigarettes, or any cartridge or component of an alternative nicotine product. Possession or use of medical cannabis is being added as prohibited in the workplace as part of Board Policy 5:50. Number 11, revised board policies. Proposed action is that the Board of Education is asked to approve changes to Section 6, instruction of the Board Policy Manual to be in compliance with state and curriculum requirements. And item number 12, resolution authorizing the Chief Financial Officer to approve and execute settlement agreements in certain proceedings before the Peoria County Board of Review and State of Illinois Property Tax Appeal Board. The proposed action is that the district's Chief Financial Officer be authorized to act on behalf of the Board of Education in consultation with District Legal Counsel and/or external legal counsel to approve and execute settlement agreements and stipulations with respect to real estate assessment complaints on such terms and conditions as the Chief Financial Officer believes are in the best interest of the district. And that concludes the consent agenda, Madam President.
Thank you. Are there any items on the consent agenda that a board member would like pulled for a separate vote? We'll, of course, have discussion on any and all of them, but is there any that want to be pulled for a separate vote? Okay, seeing none, could I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Now, are there questions or comments on any of the,
Just a couple of points of clarification on the three, on point 7, 8, and 9. Those are all to keep us in compliance with state and federal mandates, correct? That's on the contracts with certified behavioral analysts, the children's home behavior, and the Solient Healthcare.
Number 7 is to keep us in compliance as it relates to federal requirements, as it relates to students with IEPs.
Right.
We've advertised for psychologists, and we're still short, and so that contract is so that we can remain in compliance. Item number 8, because it's meeting the needs of autistic students that have IEPs also. But item number 9 is just to provide the extra layer of support for those Tier 2 and Tier 3 students, mainly Tier 3.
Which we heard presentation
Yeah, that was the
tonight.
presentation
Right.
tonight, yes, sir.
go ahead.
Just on the item number 5 regarding the contract with the city, I believe there was a provision in there that it would convert to a long-term contract under certain circumstances if there was a grant received. Is that correct?
Yes, currently, the plan is for it to be a 4-year agreement if the city is successful in receiving a COPS grant. If they are not successful, the contract would terminate at the end of the 2014-15 school year.
Okay. And that grant is provided by?
The federal, U.S. Department of Justice.
Okay. And then, I'm sorry.
On that same item, but there is language built into that contract so that if budgetary restrictions occurred that we couldn't afford to do that, or something changes with the status of our SROs and their ability to carry guns, we have language in there that we could get out of it before the 4 years is over.
Yes, items number 4 and 5. Rick, want to jump in? Okay.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Go.
Mrs. Cossack, go ahead.
On item, I think it's item number 12 in regards to the sales tax, the question is that, are we voting on that so that you will not have to come before us each time that this comes up, or the property tax?
The history is the chief financial officer or the treasurer has worked on these in the past, and I was a little uncomfortable doing this without express authority from the board to deal with outside counsel and our internal legal counsel on some of these decisions, so that's why we're bringing that to the board.
Okay,
But yes, so he doesn't have to come back.
every time, okay.
Mr. Cloy?
Yeah, also on item number 6, the transfer of the property, Washington School, and I think we've already talked about this, but this is a process that is going through the city of Peoria, so that the property is transferred to them, and we can do that, and I think the price was $150,000. So at some point in the next 120 days, that will close, and we will receive those funds, and they will receive title of that property then and transfer it to the Montessori school. That's the way that works.
They have to go through some approval processes with the city for zoning and that sort of thing. That is the case. A contract is now being drafted for the actual sales transaction.
Okay, I would just note too that this was a really good example of working with the city and also with the neighborhood there that had some concerns. And instead of just jumping the gun and trying to do something quickly, we worked with the city and the community. I think this sounds to me like a really good outcome, so I'm really happy to see that done.
Anybody else? I had one on 10 where the policy that makes possession or use of medical cannabis prohibited in the workplace. My understanding is this is sort of like the concealed carry. Even though you can have medical cannabis, the state prohibits it from being on school grounds.
Right, you get the district employee, you cannot have it.
Right, so it's just like the concealed carry. They could carry a gun outside, but they can't bring it into the school as an employee, and the same thing with medical cannabis then, okay.
Or the electronic, we've added the
Right.
electronic cigarettes.
It was the medical cannabis that sort of threw me. If somebody, I just wondered if somebody needs it. Mrs. Costick?
And it would have an impact on workers' comp. So let's just
Right.
say someone had it,
Right.
they used it at home, not on district property, and they had an accident at work. It would knock them out of workers' compensation.
Did you still have a question? Okay. Okay, any other questions or comments on the consent agenda? Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Butler?
Aye.
Mrs. Costick? Aye. Mr. Bacon?
Aye.
Mrs. Ross? Mr. Floyd?
Aye.
Mrs. O'Flaherty?
Aye.
6 ayes, 0 nays, motion carries.
Item number 13 on the deliberation agenda, the student expulsion petition, the proposed action. The board has received a petition from student A to modify an expulsion issued for the 2014 spring semester and the fall semester of the 2014-2015 school year. Specifically, student A requests that he or she be allowed to attend his or her home school for the remainder of the expulsion period. The petition was reviewed by the board in closed session. It is requested that the board approve the petition as presented. Could I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
Would you call the roll?
Mrs. Butler?
No.
Mrs. Costick?
No.
Mr. Bateman?
No.
Mrs. Ross?
No.
Mr. Floyd?
No.
Mrs. O'Flaherty?
No.
6 nays, motion denied.
Okay. That brings us to presentation and suggestions by board members. Do we have any?
Is it time to go yet?
I do have one issue. Mr. Wilcoxon, I understand that we're trying to get the earth moving work done at the Peoria High School athletic fields, and there are some issues that relate to some telecommunications equipment that needs to be moved, and it appears to be that is a holdup. Could you talk about that a little bit and what the implications of that are?
Sure. If you've looked at the site lately, they're making lots of progress, but on the northeast corner of the property, there's a large AT&T cross box that's sitting there that can be excavated because it's still carries phone lines and fiber. In June, we paid AT&T upfront to move that at a cost of $80,000. They have not started moving that yet, and so they're excavating around that. The latest information I have is that they plan to have it done by the end of August, which is delaying the project.
How much is it delaying the project? How many days does this put us behind?
It's hard to say, but it's a matter of weeks if they can't get that moved sooner.
But we also had some weather delays also.
There's been some weather delays, but Stark is making lots of progress on the site, but if you drive by there, it's obvious that cross box is slowing things down.
So do we have a contact at AT&T that might be able to help us expedite that?
We've been in contact with AT&T, and they have been somewhat less responsive than we hoped they would be.
We also in contact with the city, they've asked them for some support. They're working on trying to help us get some support with that.
Well, I think it would really be a shame to have their inability to move promptly to get this done, delay this project any further. And I would hope somebody would understand that at AT&T and realize the impact on this project and the community, and that it's not in their best interest to keep dragging their feet.
Yes, thank you.
Could I just asked, have we looked at a cost analysis of what it's costing us for their delay, and can we bill them for that?
Well, that's a good question. If there are change orders that come about because of delay in work that Stark is, having to work around that, there could be some financial impact to the district.
Yeah, I think that should definitely be presented to them. Maybe they'll pay attention.
Okay, we'll keep you up to date on that.
I do have one thing where you're going to, just for the board's information, we're going to schedule a committee of the whole meeting for September 29th at 6:30. The purpose of the meeting will be to start the discussion on what process we're going to use for the strategic plan. It'll sort of be a brainstorming type of process, so if you'll be thinking about that with any ideas you have to bring that night, but that will be the September 29th at 6:30. If there's nothing else, can I have a motion to adjourn? Thank you.